Hello, and welcome to the Humanity, where we do the things with the stuff for the people. I am Matt.
Yes, you are. And I'm Tommy. And as you can see, no longer just me. Where'd you go? Matt is back.
I
Yep.
am back.
Yep. I had fun while you were gone.
Well, that's good. That's all that counts.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hopefully somebody else did too watching that. That sounded fun. I missed that.
with the
But
belching?
yeah. I mean, we just do it.
Oh, yeah.
Go on. Yeah.
No, yeah, I was on vacation, and then the following week, I was having a difficult time readjusting. Also, it was weighing on me. I looking back now, because I don't know what my feelings are when I'm having them, when they're big ones. I'm just like, oh, I'm wrecked. I can't do anything. Can't do anything. And and then but no, it was the Supreme Court decision. And just realizing like the dissenting opinion was just kind of like the president is now a king. And it was like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
And that's when I started realizing that where the world really is right now. I was watching a bunch of alternative like news online, not alternative facts, additional information that isn't reported on in our country, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Something that like rounds out the viewpoint. Mm-hmm. And I was just realizing we're not where I thought we were, and like I don't think we're where most of us thought we were. And that was a lot to handle.
Yeah, meaning probably worse than we think.
I don't know, it depends. But probably worse. But it's kind of like irrelevant because this is all stuff that was like going to happen. Like this is what people said was going to happen, and that just wasn't being reported on, and that kind of thing. And things have just progressed so quickly that like where we all think things should be based on how quickly we know things to change. We have kind of like projected and assumed reality onto what's actually happening, and like things have sped up so quickly that like where a lot of us think we're actually like at least 10 years past that. Like geopolitically and just at least, and like yeah. And so that was big, and it was like good to accept that. There was like a grieving process. And so I don't like just where it seems like things are now what is happening, and never assume you know what is happening. Like don't be like, that's what's happening. You should be like,
man,
it's like, no, that's accurate, so that's a part of what's happening at least. And then you just like keep adding to it.
Now I feel like I need a week off.
It's like, so we know at least that. It's like what our attitude should be, and then like we add something to it, and then we're like, okay, cool, so we know at least this. It just keep
but before we get into more of that,
I just like ran off into it.
No, that's good. I mean, hitting your stride, getting your feet back under you. Something about wheels. Is there something with wheels with that? I don't know.
Get your wheels back under your feet.
Yeah, pretend that's what it is. And that's what
get your feet wheels turned around.
Those are called roller skates, Matt. But we should just call them feet wheels now. That sounds much better. Yeah. So what are you drinking?
I am drinking Imperial Amber from Great Lakes Brewery. I forgot for a second. Yeah, and it's very good. I had the Bullet Bourbon Barrel, and it's just good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you've had that one before on here. Man, it sounded good.
And the color is darn close to Super Dark Bullet.
Yeah,
Slightly more red, but yeah, it's very good.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. All right, so for tonight, sort of special occasion celebrating Matt being back, I guess. Have the infamous return now that the show is back in double bastard mode.
Double bastard vision.
Yeah. That's us. We're the bastards. Got Stone double bastard. It's a double version of their arrogant bastard.
Isn't that the one that was like basically a barley wine?
Pretty much. I don't. Does it say what the ABV on here is? Okay. Talk amongst yourselves, Matt. Well,
I'm going to say it's 14.
Oh, it's only 10.5.
Huh. Maybe it was like oaked arrogant bastard, or
that might have been it, but it definitely feels like more than that, like more like at least 12 or something. But anyway, yeah. Got the fancy glass for it tonight that it just barely fits in. So
was that the bombers of that we had, or I had, and that's when I ended up sleeping at your house?
Well, we got two bombers, one bomber of arrogant bastard and one bomber of double. And there were probably other things involved too. That's just what we had gone out to the store to get that I didn't already have at my house.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think we're watching Mr. Science Theater 3000 or something.
Oh yeah, in that little room.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That was like that's like a walk-in closet size, basically. I mean, like at some of the house, like a couple of houses I've worked at, that's, or it's on their wish list of what they think is reasonable. Like that's a good master bedroom size closet.
Indeed.
Yeah.
But yeah.
If only we all had that would be awesome.
Yeah. Just a little walk-in closet to call my own. Oh, well, I guess I'll have to deal with the regular house. Oh, well. So, yes, something else I wanted to kind of announce. I'm saying a thing that'll probably happen. That's it. So, a realization I made recently, our show is on Tuesday nights, like tonight.
Yep.
And you know what else is on a Tuesday night?
Within our little. Oh yeah. No, okay. You said, well, you know what? I ruined it. I thought you said something else.
Oh, you didn't.
Yeah, the election. I'll pick it up. The election will be on a Tuesday night.
Yes, that is true. So I figured, well, we got to do something for that, right? Now,
I mean, Aaron's not going to want to talk to me that night. So anyway,
there you go. Yeah. So, and I still don't know exactly what it's going to be. All I know is, and we have confirmed some special guests for the evening. Some people who are familiar with the show will definitely know at least two of them. But there are other people in the, I don't know what you want to call, like the Derek Day family of podcasts or whatever we want to call it.
The Derek Day Network.
Yes. And so including, of course,
Derek Daycare.
One and only Mr. Derek Daycare. He is the pod daddy. But anyway, so Derek Day, he was one of our guests we had a couple months ago now. Still probably our most viewed episode, probably just because of the audience that Derek has amassed over the years.
Yeah, he brings his own crowd. Yeah,
we appreciate that, and we appreciate Derek, obviously. So Derek, and then he's host of Freeology Friday with someone else I'll get to in a minute. Then he has Forward Live. He has a blog. You can find him on the Facebooks and the interwebs and the Instagrams. Anyway, another guest we've already had, Mr. Jimmy Ligon, also host of Unreligious on Thursday nights that I join him for every now and then when I can. And then another guy who haven't had on yet, but do plan on it, and he has expressed interest. It's actually Derek's co-host for Freeology Friday, Mr. Aaron Tomlinson. And He has his own show on Sundays, and I'm sorry, I forget what it's called, if he has a special title for it. So he'll just have to come on and tell us what it is. So yeah.
That's the only solution.
Yeah. No other possible way to rectify that. So
I don't want it to be rectified.
Yeah, so we'll just have him on. Oh, and speaking of Mr. Jimmy Ligon, there he is in the chat and in the flesh, or in the flesh chat. No, don't go in the flesh chat. That sounds. So anyway, all that to say, tune in if I don't know if we're gonna.
You remember speakeasies?
I do.
I feel like Flesh Chat is in that world of speakeasies somewhere. Or maybe if pornography gets outlawed by our coming fascist government, then the Flesh Chat would be like the speakeasy for porn.
Oh man. So thank you for joining us, Jimmy. Also, thanks for joining us on YouTube.
It is a different show.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But so yeah, all that to say,
that would make Facebook figure out how to cancel podcasts. They're like, we don't have a mechanism for that. We didn't think this would happen.
See, we're driving innovation here at the Humanity. Yeah. So all that to say, so again, just try to condense that announcement. If you're looking for something to do on election night, hey, we'll be on at the usual time.
We'll be doing things.
Being joined by special guests Derek Day, Jimmy Ligon, and Aaron Tomlinson. Maybe more. We haven't decided. I'm sure if other people just want to kind of hop on and join, that would be all right too. But
yeah,
as Jimmy says, you have to have your own fleshlight to attend Flesh Chat. I mean, it makes sense.
It's like the door pass. It's like your ticket to get in. There's just like a bucket full of fleshlights that's like beyond the front door.
No, it's BYOF strictly. Yeah.
No, you don't want the communal fleshlight. That's not.
No.
Those aren't problems you want to have.
Yeah, that's a closeness with someone else I don't want to quite have. Maybe a certain someone's. I don't. Not anyway. This has taken a turn.
Yay!
So anyway, I don't know if we're gonna. So yeah, election night. Tune in here. I don't know if we're gonna turn it into like an actual watching the results come in, or if it's just going to be a collective, we're all depressed and just need to get together and drink and chat about how depressing the things are.
Yeah, I think before that we'll have a pretty good idea. Yeah.
So
yeah, my bet is on it's like advanced cope.
And actually, I'm thinking depending we may
coping is a team sport.
With booze.
By the way, that kind of reminds me. I think there need to be T-shirts that say "I'm woke" because it's being used as a slur, right?
Oh,
and we got to take it back because it's stupid. Yep. And clearly, it's better to be awake.
Yeah.
So if somebody and the whole woke thing started out in African American culture, where. That meant you saw that the system was against you. It's like you were awake to what was really happening. Especially, I think, around civil rights time, when it was kind of like, no, it is as bad as we think. Don't believe them. and so that meant you. So being woke, that's where that term came from. And now, because there's a bunch of racist history nerds behind a lot of conservative movements, they're like, hey, you know what? Let's use that because we'll know what that's about. But everybody else would just be like, yeah, of course.
Well, that explains why the maggots don't like it. So,
yeah,
and not the Slipknot fan maggots. Those people are cool. At least some of them.
That's theatrical.
Anyway,
they're named that.
Yeah. Well, I heard the story behind it, and Corey Taylor, the singer, see, you can tell Matt's back because we're off in Tangent City. We may or may not return because I know what we're going to talk about tonight, and it's fucking depressing. So maybe that's me trying to push it back. But anyway, But
it kind of is, but it's also extremely hopeful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But anyway, so back to my tangent.
Yep.
So Corey Taylor, lead vocalist for Slipknot, who came up with the term, because he said when he like looked at the crowd with like everyone jumping together, he's like, it actually was like a lot of the behavior of like actual maggots. How they'll all like get in a group and they'll all be like climbing on each other and like moving up and down. So and this was like, you know, late 90s, early 2000s, like new metal, where like coming up with like insults and being derogatory towards yourselves and your fans was kind of the vibe. so yeah.
I mean,
so anyway,
the band Limp Bizkit, just that name, like that's why would you call yourselves that?
It's like, I don't want any part of that.
Nope.
At all. I like a good firm biscuit.
You know, it's a slang term, right?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, good. I was like, did you make that joke on purpose?
I mean, I actually was thinking, like, just in real life, I do enjoy a much firmer biscuit, but also
in general.
Yeah.
But if you get the sausage gravy on the biscuit, then it's fine to fall apart then.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. You want a lot of give. Yeah. That should be another t-shirt. Firm the biscuits. You know, or not, whatever.
Or just okay, like if there was an iconic Limp Bizkit like logo for their name, just like change it to say firm biscuit, and you know, in that like 90s new metal thing. They were 90s, right? Early odds.
Yeah, around there. I just remember around the time I was in high school, they were popular, and I was upset.
I still think Wes Borland was in that band just to be ironic.
Oh yeah, he was like actually good. But
he had a weird sense of humor.
Mm-hmm. He always had the cool contacts in.
All right, so that was fun.
It was. So yeah, check us out here.
That was a fun side quest.
Yeah. So again, just to wrap up the before the show thing. Yeah, check us out. Election night. We'll have some fun hanging out. Might even start early. Who knows? But more details as we get closer.
Yeah.
Check it out. All right, I'm done doing my I'm a professional show person thing. I don't know what that was.
So I guess we can get into it.
Please do.
So this is related to our whole thing, and so like there's a lot of stuff that like sounds bad, but then it's just like, oh, because that's really different. But but then the implication of that is actually good, and then some of the implications are actually like, oh, it's gonna be worse. You thought that was bad.
Yeah, but real quick, this one, like Jimmy's just saying, hey, like he just stopped in to say, hey, we'll watch later. Like, we'll appreciate you stopping in, Jimmy, and we will see you here, if not sooner. November or whatever that is. That's still a few months away, but
6th, I think.
Yeah, we should probably start planning and things. But anyway, back to.
Oh yeah. Okay, so just like this, trying to think how to lead into this.
Yeah.
So okay, with like the. So like I have to like back it up a little bit. All right, so with the internet, the way everybody makes money on the internet is through advertising or data to get to a purchase of some kind eventually down the road. And so for us to have what we wanted on the internet, people had to like provide us what we wanted online. And so it's ramped up so quickly from companies being focused on like giving us what we want online. What do we want to see? Like, how do we want to buy stuff and all that? And then for each company or marketing group to have an edge, they had to then be able to predict what people were going to want before they wanted it, and then show them exactly what they were going to want before they were consciously aware of it. And so we've all been kind of like voluntarily brainwashing ourselves in it's like a sped up pace, but not like, but it's a mutual thing. We're like we're like voluntarily brainwashing ourselves to be more of who we really want to be and what we really want. And but we're being like led there by our own wishes, you know, like through algorithms and stuff to like get there before, like, we're progressing in like mentality. And it's almost like, so you had like the industrial revolution, and that was like a big change from agrarian, and then you had like the digital revolution, and now something's happening there was a data revolution that we just kind of like leapfrogged over and didn't really live that out, but it's affecting us. And we're living it out now and finding out that like the digital age, you know what I mean? Or the data age.
Data, yeah.
So all across the board, like governments and countries and stuff are acting in ways that is like what you would want to do if you wanted to like collapse your country, or if you wanted to like, what's the worst long-term thing I could do? And somehow that became like what everybody in like legacy leadership of countries, it's like that's for some reason what they think is the best idea, and they've got like reasons to back it up. But in this current scenario, it's exactly the wrong thing. And what has happened is older people adapt more slowly to like new cultural shifts and stuff. It just is how it goes. We have massive amounts of elderly and soon to be elderly people in leadership, in like in judiciary, in legislative, presidents, and
what
and like in military leadership and media leadership, and like they're still operating on an old paradigm because they're automatically slow to change, but also things changed way faster than anybody noticed or most people didn't notice. And so they're still operating on something that like we're just finding out is about 20 years out of date. And and things have changed so much that like Russia going into Ukraine, and like they were going to win that war. However, it was always going to end up being like about where the borders are now with the fighting. It was going to become a war of attrition. Ukraine was going, like, Russia really had no hope, no realistic hope of taking over the whole country. And Ukraine at this point, and in general, at no point has it been realistic for them to drive the Russians completely out. Also, it's like one out of every 250 military-age Russian males has already died in the war. It's
one out of how many?
250. There's like whole towns where like the male population just doesn't exist anymore because they're pulling it out of poor rural areas. And Russia already had a massive demographic decline. Like they were already going to be really hurting to like shift their economy and all that. And they've just, Putin, in an attempt to like resurrect some old Russian empire, pretty much guaranteed that the current Russian empire like is gonna splinter and fracture, and it's gonna have like there was no way, this was a bad idea from the beginning. But Putin is still using like out of date mentality, and Biden is too, and and so it's just like. And the younger people, and we're kind of like right in the middle. The stuff, the kind of like news commentary and stuff they're putting out online is they're like, the old people are fucking everything up. Like, look at all this information. This says that like, what do you do if you actually want to do what they say they want out of the world, like this says you don't do this. Like this is the thing to do to like get the opposite of what you want. Like like so Project 2025 and all that. This is what happens when everyone gets what they want. It upsets.
What is Project 2025? Just to make sure the people. Please familiarize yourself with it.
No, absolutely. And do not go to the Heritage Foundation or anything that's officially Project 2025 because they give you the. I was gonna say whitewash, but it's more the color washed version. It's the one like everybody might be into, and what it is if you've seen Handmaid's Tale, it's basically Handmaid's Tale is an slight exaggeration of what this plan is. And Handmaid's Tale is like Christian nationalist fascist America, at least the eastern part. I don't remember if it was all of it in that show or book. Less sexual assault.
Probably.
But and I don't know how to like convince people like that like this isn't like bad dystopian sci-fi. Like this is real. Like there are people that Trump trusts like implicitly, as far as he trusts people, who are putting together a massive list of people that they will install across all kinds of government agencies. And they would be Trump loyalists, not even party loyalists. So we're talking like people with like Kim Jong-un levels of dedication, like they're like his inner circle or his lackeys are committed to him, not to communism. And so that's the actual plan. There's an actual list, and the plan is that Trump would, or the next Republican president, they would just call it something else. So like this plan goes into effect for the next Republican president. And there's like 250 different organizations behind it, something like that. The main one is the Heritage Foundation and a couple other think tanks. But the thing is like, you could say, well, next, a Republican candidate wouldn't necessarily agree with this. And the thing is that these organizations like control the money to get people to the Republican nomination. And so like if this is what's happening, like that means that like this is what will happen, because there won't be somebody who makes it there who isn't on board with this.
Now what are some of the things that are in it? Because I'm still like kind of generally familiar with it, but like again, just make sure other people know. Like so, like what are some of the specific things that it's wanting to do? All
right, let's do this.
Okay, let's. Because I also know there's
ChatGPT. Tell me why Project 2025 would be bad for all kinds of Americans.
Yeah, because like you said, don't look at just the Heritage Foundation version of it, because there's a thing that it officially says in the documents, but then you kind of have to read between lines on some things and like, okay, what does that actually look like if they do this? Like, it's not the, just like it's called the Patriot Act. That means it's patriotic, right? No.
Well, erosion of democratic norms includes measures that would undermine democratic principles and the rule of law. One of which we've already seen, where they just said that like if the president does it, it's not illegal.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little more nuanced than that, but yeah, it's one of those like,
well,
that there's the letter of
I thought so too.
Obviously, you can stretch, obviously from.
I thought so too, but then
of it, but yeah,
I listened to an attorney explain the ins and outs of it, and the reason why it is practically that, and would be so any official act performed by the president as president is immune from immunity. The thing is, that means like
immune.
What?
You said immune. You said immune from immunity.
Sorry, that's what I meant. Immune from prosecution.
Okay, that makes sense.
And so the president has authority over all kinds of different categories of things. Like the president is the commander-in-chief of the military. So because that is one of his official responsibilities, it says that he can use the military to do whatever he wants, and he can't be prosecuted for it. He could not be reelected next time, assuming the president doesn't decide to suspend elections, which is something that he could do as president. If he writes an executive order that lays out like how that would work, and it doesn't specifically go against like a limitation of powers in the Constitution, then he could totally do it. Also, if anybody wanted to challenge any of the things he does in court, they're not allowed to use any evidence that would be from any like carrying out of official duties. So like any record of official duties couldn't be used to prosecute him for breaking the law. So basically, like, if it's a category that he has authority in and he breaks the law, well, okay, you could try to prosecute him for it, but if you'd have to prove that it was part of personal activity only. So if it was like a family business thing or something, that would be like he could be prosecuted for that. But like, for example, classifying pretty much every federal employee of the federal government as I forget the name of it, but it's basically something that makes them an at-will hire or at-will fire or whatever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't remember if that has already happened or if all it would take is just an executive order. And then there's a whole list of people that they would fire, federal employees, and replace with people that that are on board with the Project 2025 goal and all that. It's not even about Trump anymore. Like this is about like Christian nationalist wet dream.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, I have kind of a
like basically what they think needs to happen for the kingdom of heaven to come to earth. That's what that also.
And we all know how Jesus feels about the gays.
Or do we?
Or how they think Jesus feels about the gays. It's really how they feel about the gays, and they're just trying to attach Jesus to it to give it some credibility.
So the door would be wide open to like prosecute political opponents for all kinds of things. There's plans to basically weaponize what they thought the judicial system was doing to Trump, like being weaponized against him. They want to make that reality and use it against opponents of Christian nationalism. There's cuts across the board to like any kind of government aid, subsidies, and we're talking like everything. So I receive SNAP benefits, which is food assistance, and we would see that drastically cut. My daughter gets supplemental Social Security income because she's disabled. We would likely see that cut. It's already laid out. This thing is like this plan is hundreds of pages long, and it's basic. It's not just like a manifesto. It's a policy plan. It's like cut and paste. Here's what we'll be putting. Trans
potentially
people are. we're gonna have to have like support networks. I don't think it'll get as bad as like an underground railroad situation.
Yeah.
But like if there's like an above ground railroad system, like
yeah, oh for sure.
If you know anybody in the LGBTQ community, if you're listening, or like make it known you are a safe place to go. Like your house is a safe place to go, and so if things do get especially violent or dire towards folks that have no business dealing with that, like there's no reason. Like it needs to get out there that there's like safe places to go wherever you are.
Yeah. Now, potentially, or like positive view on the thing, Tiffany here, I think she was specifically talking about the firing people in the government. She says it will never get that far. Lower courts have to decide which is official versus personal, or maybe this is talking about the Supreme Court ruling. I think maybe then appeal upon appeal and so on.
But oh, go ahead.
I was going to say that for me, like when I talked about like the Supreme Court decision being nuanced, it still basically has to be like up to the courts to kind of decide if what the president did falls under his like official duties or not. It's not like it's not like he's just given like complete free reign that all he has to do is say, well, this is official business. Like, other parties still have to actually agree that was official business. Then it's a question of, can the people in power, how are they going to stack the courts? And then
so if
and also I'm not saying it's not a problem, by the way.
Oh no, and so this is part of the thing, like this is something the Supreme Court should have decided. Like if they're going to throw that like immunity thing out there, like it's weird to kick it down to a lower court. Kicking it down to a lower court is a delaying tactic. Like they know it's going to take like forever to get hashed out, and if Trump is elected before this is solved, it's not going to matter, because there will be so much extensive either control or just damage. Who knows if they can actually control it once they put lackeys in all these positions. And part of the issue was it's not clear to me with the Supreme Court ruling if sending it to a lower court, like a lower federal court, it's not clear if they're allowed to use so there's some things that the president does that like it's definitely an official act, right? There's no nuance there. And then there's some things where like it's definitely not, don't be silly. And then there's stuff in the middle where you're like, this is where it gets and so that stuff in the middle, it's unclear if they're allowed to use information from what is considered an official duty to figure out what is an official duty and not. So it sounds like the Supreme Court decision may have made it kind of impossible for a lower court to really decide what is or isn't if they're hamstrung from looking at anything that is definitely an official act. Because how do you figure out where the line is between one, if like there's a lot of stuff in the gray area they should not have access to? Now, if this is kind of brilliant on their part to like put it all off until after the election, because you don't really want to agitate anybody. Ideally, you don't agitate people until the revolution's over. You're like, oh crap, this is real now. So no, like it, but it's astonishing that the Supreme Court would even say that like there is potential immunity, because that means that at least the president, that's what this means now, is at least the president is above the law in some cases. No. And we're like, but it might not be all cases. It's like still bad because Like there's still a lot of harm.
Yeah, and I mean honestly, my initial response to hearing this was, I mean, like I said, not that it's not bad, but also there was a part of me that's like, well, presidents have all kind of already been doing that
right
anyway, especially when it comes to the military. I mean, you think about even like Obama, like with the assassination of Anwar al-Awlaki. Like, okay, dude was
there
a
were
U.S.
so
citizen.
many more.
Oh yeah, that was just like the more popular example. So you said, well, he was a terrorist combatant. Like, well, he was also a U.S. citizen, according to the Constitution, is therefore has the right to a trial. And they also say, well, he was a terrorist, as if he was killed in like in the act of doing the terrorism. Like, no, he was sitting having breakfast with his son, who was also killed in the attack.
Yeah.
And who I believe was also a U.S. citizen, but I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. But either way, like just some kid.
If he was his son by blood, I think he automatically is.
Yeah. And then, unless you think we were done with that family, then his little daughter was then killed by the Trump administration in another drone attack. So that poor family.
And that's just tip of the iceberg. There's veterans coming out now sharing stuff and
yeah, so that's why to me, because like I said, knowing like we said, that's just one example. So to me, it's like presidents is like, oh yeah, and by the way, so yeah, Obama doing that, like zero repercussions at all.
Oh, and
basically he said that basically taught us, so the United States can just assassinate U.S. citizens just whenever they want.
No, I totally agree with you. That like this isn't like all of a sudden, and I know I get animated and but I've been thinking about this too. Like it's not like all of a sudden like the president has at least limited kingship powers. Like like that. Presidents have been acting like that behind the scenes, and the additional news sources I've been watching, like people who have lived through, people on the other side, quote unquote, of our military action over the last 20 years, the global war on terror, the GWAT, as the vets call it. They kind of mock it because they're like, it wasn't a global war on terror. It was a global war on poor brown people with nothing to lose. Like, not excusing anything anybody does on either side. Like,
no.
However, there's like reasons why things happen, and so like this fascist phase of America has been coming for a long time. And like our power structure is already in this country, like corporations and corporate media and politics, like it's all machinery is already there and ready to go. And so like this is what more of us in the country want. Like that's why it's happening. That's why it's got sped up. And but on both sides, because there are some on the more liberal side who are like, we just need to make things happen, just make things happen. And well, you can't just make things happen without like a dictatorship or fascism or something, some kind of like domination.
Yeah.
If you're trying to like do your politics to someone else, like that's a bit assaulty. Stop it. A little bit,
yeah. But back to what I was saying about like, with my initial reaction being not so concerned about like the Supreme Court decision links, but still like the more you think about it, because again, like something else I said earlier, there's what's on paper and then there's how far they stretch it. So
and practical implications.
This was a thing where presidents and like the governments and different agencies have been doing like forever probably, but it's almost like, okay, well now it's like on paper that they can do this. It's not.
Yeah.
So
we're big on what you can do on paper in this country.
Yeah. Yeah. So then now how much farther are they going to go from here? I guess, the more I was thinking about it, but yeah, initially it's like, like I said, like Yeah, it's one of those things where this is just how my brain will react to things, like similar to, and I don't know if I necessarily want to go too far on this tangent, but like with like the January 6th incident, like at no point was I ever okay with that at all. Like,
right.
Absolutely agreed.
But it made sense, didn't it?
Terrible thing. Please prosecute to the fullest extent of the law, even though apparently I don't know what that even means anymore. Everyone involved. And yes, there is a but coming, and I know I do not agree that a but negates the, well, I really think, but like all the things
no,
before
it means,
but
it really means however.
Exist. So, but I was like, okay, yes, let's please be angry about this. Let's do something about this. And now let's use that because I'll admit initially, like day of, like maybe a couple days before I really got the full scope of it, I was almost like, well, now our government knows what it's like to have like people committing violence to them after all the violence that they have been committing, like, and much worse violence.
Right.
Other people. So I'm like, to me, so again, this was my initial reaction. I was like, well, to me, this is just the slightest comeuppance for all the bullshit they've been doing.
It's kind of like not liking it, not supporting it is almost like a non-issue because it happened. And looking back, you could see it was going to happen. Like the conservative like people group, they're kind of a repressed people. Like they'll talk a good game and all that, but like they don't usually show up. They have rallies. They don't really show up to protest. And so would have been good for them to protest like quite a while over and over again. Get it out, get out of their system. And then they're like, but we've been sending nasty chat messages and emails. Why isn't anybody listening? We've been vocal, and it's like, but not in the way anybody cares about, like, or that makes a difference. So it was kind of like a repressed explosion. And I think I think we're kind of seeing like an extinction burst of like that ultra conservative mindset. Because they don't have the numbers moving forward. They're gonna age out and age into a minority. So this is kind of like the last desperate gasp before it dies, and it's just kind of like I feel like there's some element in that movement that is like, yeah, we're going out, but we're gonna see who we can take with us. And
but I guess to kind of sum up like where I was getting at with my attitude of, okay, yeah, I'm upset about this, but can we please be more upset about the other stuff, is like I said, like whether it's presidents or just like the military or the governments, agencies, whatever in general, like have been doing so much just absolutely heinous stuff just for decades. But it's like a lot of that stuff, like a lot of people are just kind of like, that's just what they do. Like, yeah, we don't like it, but they don't really like actually get upset about it to the point of where they're actually trying to change anything. They're like, oh, that's just what presidents
We didn't
do.
know how bad it was.
Yeah, I mean, and
2 million locals died in the Iraq War and in Afghanistan. Now that's civilians and combatants. But the U.S. doesn't count civilians, so we have to rely on. It was so bad that, like, even if you were if your name, your cell phone information was on the wrong person's contact list, that could get you to business, as this one said. And he's like, and that's what turned him against. He's like anti-imperial, anti-war now, and he's like, it was just. It didn't matter. There were quotas. You wanted to be able to tell people in charge, like, how many terrorists you took out this week. And
because it's a thing. So I guess maybe a specific example that like my mind goes back to, which again, like in case anyone doesn't know, absolutely not a fan of Trump. This guy. But at first, like I said, when Trump was like first elected,
me neither.
like,
I just nodded. But yeah, let's make that clear.
Thank you. But like, now obviously things escalated and got much worse. But like for a while, I was like, Trump is really hasn't, like in his presidency, I was like, Trump really hasn't actually done anything like really bad. He just like says a lot of terrible things and maybe encourages other people to do more terrible things. But as far as like what he's done, it's like he's just kind of a shitty person, says some really shitty things, and understandably so. A lot of people get very upset, and that's like why they didn't like him about stuff. But then
there wasn't anything super unusual that he did. The wall, it was a little. That was much, but
yeah, for me, the way I described it at first with him was so we finally have a president who is as ugly and unappealing as the government actually is. Like, he's not trying to put like a happy face on it.
Good
he's
point.
Just like, this is what it is. So at least for that, like,
yeah,
to be very generous, say that's something I appreciated about his presidencies. At least
and you see how fast that went too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that happened so fast.
Yeah. So, but the way I put it, I think it was Tom Woods, like I haven't followed in a long time, but he pointed out, because like with Trump, like saying all the nasty things, everyone's like, oh, he's so unpresidential. Like, look at all the hate and all the things this is going to lead to. But then it changed, like his first like big like ordering of like a military airstrike or something. Like, then we got all these people like, oh, look how presidential he is, and he's like. So, like, we don't like the foul mouth thing, but as soon as he actually starts killing people, then we're like, oh, yes, that's what presidents do. Like, that's the kind of attitude that just...
And working in our favor at that time and now, because I really think he's going to win. Like, but hopefully he doesn't.
Yeah, thanks, Matt.
He actually had an aversion to killing people. Like, as far as presidents go, he was real squeamish on it.
Yeah. I will say that is one other thing I actually do genuinely appreciate about his presidency. And like, these things are very few and farther between, but he's the only president since at least Carter who did not start any new like military campaigns or invasions or whatever. Like, so I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah.
Coming off of, Mr. Barack Nobel Peace Prize Obama, who was dropping bombs every day he was in office and expanded so much.
Not only is he okay. So sorry, I interrupted you a little bit because I was like super eager.
That's all right. I was going to say, like, yeah, dropping bombs every day he was in office, like expanded military conflicts who were already in, started new ones, promised to end the Patriot Act, but not only did he not do that, he actually expanded it. Didn't close down Gitmo like he said he was going to do. Like, I understand why a lot of people have a lot of love for Obama, and like, but when people talk about his presidency and how squeaky clean he was and no scandals, and I'm like,
well, he had a very compliant media at the time.
Yeah.
So there were plenty of scandal opportunities, things that should have been scandals.
Yeah, I mean, there was the whole not that at the time I maybe was, but like currently, I'm no Tea Party sympathizer, but like the whole like IRS scandal, like going after conservative groups and targeting them. There was how the handling of Chelsea Manning, Fast and Furious, like still like
WikiLeaks.
WikiLeaks.
What they did to that guy, and he was just pardoned.
Yeah, I just saw that.
Sorry, we nearly ended your life and ruined it for all these years.
So good for you, Assange.
Yeah, for real.
And I mean,
and what was crazy about all that is the stuff that he was sharing, the stuff that he was leaking. He was leaking things that was actually illegal for the federal government to be doing. And so, like, this is like just learning from like additional news sources. Like, I didn't really realize that like. Sure, it was wrong. Like this is where whistleblower status should have protected him, because he was releasing things that he shouldn't have released for top secret reasons. But he was blowing the whistle on things that were actually illegal, and so like these are things that the American people are entitled to know about.
Yeah, so he shouldn't have for like technical legal reasons, but he definitely should have for like actual human reasons.
Yeah,
Yeah.
If you believe in the ideals of the Constitution and separation of powers and all that, like he straight up, he should have been a hero. And he is to a lot of people, like, he survived. He wasn't able to see a window. Like, for a long time, he wasn't allowed to see a window, let alone go outside, because if he could see a window, a sniper could shoot him. Like, so he didn't see direct sunlight for a long time.
And I'd love to have him on the show. Just
he's probably booked, and I'm sure just wants to do anything regular.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Julian, if you're watching, if you just want to hang out with us and drink and talk about Frank Turek, we could do that.
It may be beneath you.
But hey, that's where we live. Anyway. So so that's my whole thing was just people's, like, I guess selective outrage is the phrase. Because like
that's a good point.
This is the thing that I try to say is like, look, I'm still, like I said, I am not voting for Trump. Like, I absolutely not. That doesn't mean I love Biden. Okay, and that doesn't mean I'm not going to point out things that I see as flaws in him, or obviously I pointed out things in Hillary at the time, and like I said, I'm still a bit of an anarchist at heart, so there's still part of me that just fucking hates all of them, but I'm recovering-ish.
Well, I got some stuff that you might want to watch.
Ooh, okay.
There's an anarchy and democratic socialism crossover. So
So anarcho-socialism?
No, it's well, okay. So it's more like governing with the full consent of the people, meaning like democratic involvement on like every level, from like the company that you work at, above a certain size. Like they're finding out that when like workers in like a particular sector of the company, like if when accounting gets together, the accounting department is going to come up with more solutions than like the accounting director 2 levels above them, because that person doesn't really know, but that's the person making decisions. And so if that person consulted with or whatever, you know what I mean, like they were more of a facilitator, like carrying out the wishes of the people below them. There's plenty of evidence that shows that companies are more nimble, and especially with how quickly things are changing, with what people want basically being given to us by our action online. That's where it's going anyway. Like the internet has all kinds of power structures try to control it, but it's basically turned the world into like one big democracy, or something like similar to that. If you have access to the same video that everyone else has in every other part of the world, you know, and you're like, thumbs up, thumbs down, or my eyeballs liked that, they didn't, kind of thing. Then we've all been voting on where everything's going, and it's reaching the point where I think there's a much smaller gap between what the people want and what they know is happening and what they know they're not getting, and the people trying to get out front in the power structures to kind of like, well, we'll kind of give them what they want to keep them happy, and because they have access to more information than we do usually. They have a better picture of what's coming next. So they give us what we want in a way that's good for them. And so we end up kind of feeding into that and what that group wants. But that's getting much harder. That's much harder to happen. Like the way that the information from Gaza has been coming out, and how quickly that is spread. Like normally this is something that like America might start to realize after it's over, and then somebody tells us reasons why we don't have to feel too bad about it, and then we're like, cool, and then we just move on without digging too much into it, kind of like with Kosovo and that whole thing.
Yeah, I barely remember that.
But now stuff is coming out faster than people in power can control it, and so there's going to be two major cultures clashing. I think protests are going to increase for sure. They're going to get more violent. We're probably going to see people die, either killed by the cops or by other protesters.
Yeah.
And we're going to move into kind of like a cold civil war. That's what it seems like is coming.
Ooh. There's an interesting term that I'd never heard that I wish I wasn't a thing. But
there's already an intelligence network going for like people who want democracy and not fascism. Like a lot of people who realized that they're going to have to. You can't trust what you're told unless like you verify it yourself, basically, or you're like, okay, that person's not an expert. What do the experts say? That's what I mean. Verify it yourself, not just look at it and say, what do I think is true? And
yeah, that's I think. Because that's a term like when people will say things like, well, do your own research or figure it out for yourself. Like,
it doesn't mean what they think it means.
Yeah, I think too many people think that means like, well, just ignore what everyone else is saying, and except for the particular voices you already agree with. Yeah, listen to that. But other than that, like, just it's like,
and that's been the focal point of Russian propaganda, by the way, convincing people that they're the sole expert they can trust.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's been like my frustration. Like, okay, for to use as an example, like, you know, the COVID pandemic, specifically when it came to things like wearing masks and getting the vaccine. So it was basically because also this was it happened at a point where I would like, you know, I refer to myself as a like recovering anarchist. Like this in 2020, like I was still very much like I just was very much like anarchist, like didn't trust anything in government. And so that's why initially I was like super skeptical of the whole thing, partially because, you know, this was not the first like new virus that was like coming out of Southeast Asia. They were all supposed to be afraid of. And like so many of these like came and went and weren't really a thing. And I was, so that's why at first I was like,
thanks media for crying wolf.
Right. But then once things like really started like hitting the fan with it, I was like, oh, this is like a real thing, you know, all of a sudden. So then, but I saw like all the other people I knew who were still more like anarchist and libertarian. Like, so when the government, basically anytime the government said do anything, they were just like, fuck you, I'm not going to like put on a mask and stay home and like actually try to keep from spreading this, or like, this is no big deal. So like just one stat that, and I wish I could remember the exact numbers off the top of my head, but so at the same time you had people saying that COVID is no big deal, it's basically just the flu, but the vaccines, that's the real danger, even though COVID has a much higher mortality rate than the vaccines. So if the COVID is really fake, but the vaccines are how they're trying to kill us, they're really fucking that up.
Yep.
But anyway, so when it came to
what there are countries with the means to try to communicate it to U.S. citizens who would benefit from there being fewer Americans. And so like China, North Korea, and Russia all had a vested interest in Americans not trusting the vaccine and maybe dying a little more. Like that was in their best interest.
Yeah.
So people were like way too eager to trust bogus sources, and when
So I was like kind of in that place where like all the like these people I was interacting with, mostly online, you know, like friends and stuff, who were all like, oh, I'm not wearing a mask, I'm not taking the vaccine, you know, or the jab, as they like to call it.
My freedom's more important than everybody else's freedom.
Yeah, but and there's like, so when people like me is like, I do wear a mask. I do plan on getting the vaccine as soon as I can, because that was also the other thing is like I had cancer at the time, so I was like hoping that would like kind of push me farther, ahead in the line. But anyway, so they're saying like anyone that wears a mask and like getting a vaccine, like stop listening to the government. They're just lying to you anyway. The thing is, like, I was in favor of those things, not because I was listening to like the government or politicians or anything, because like honestly, like I, especially at that point, like I wasn't listening to politicians on anything, like, because I really just legitimately did not give a shit what any of them had to say. Who I was listening to was like pretty much every like actual medical professional that like I'm friends with or his family, and they were all saying basically, I mean, especially like when it came to the vaccine, like I had like friends like who were medical professionals breaking it down for me. Okay, here's exactly what's in the vaccine. Here's what this does. Here's how this interacts with the body. Here's what this does with the virus. And here, like breaking it down completely. And they're like, this is amazing. Please get it right now. So I'm like, at what level does the conspiracy enter into there? Because in order for them to be wrong, then that means that all medical schools across probably the entire world would have had to be teaching virology, immunology, vaccinations, like all this stuff wrong for how many decades for them to be wrong about this?
Well, see, you're thinking through it too much, because what you need to do is you need to just take all of that and just call all of that them. They're doing it. Why? Because it's good for them. Like, how's it good for them? They know. They know what they're doing. It's like, do you?
Yeah. And it was just so frustrating for me because, like, I would do things like, I very proudly got the vaccine. I wore masks out like all the time, especially when it was required. Like, I mean, I remember like my kids at the time, like, they had, when they went back to school, like they had to wear masks, they were in like grade school. And I remember my daughter like hearing about all these people complaining. She's like, why are all these grown-ups complaining about wearing masks? I wear them all day to school every day. It's no big deal. Like basically calling them a bunch of wusses. So
but
I just got a kick out of that. Yeah. Oh, and another thing is like, speaking of, Asia and like other parts of the world, it's like when it comes to masks, it's like when like there's like not even just like a pandemic, but just like you go to places like Japan, like just if someone has a cold, they wear a mask. Because actually at the time we actually had a couple of students from Japan who were staying with us. And I remember one of them, like when she just had a cold one day, she just wore a mask all the time. This was like before the pandemic hit. But then when it did, they were like, why isn't anyone wearing masks? Because then, like, this is just what you do. This is because I respect other people and don't want to potentially get them sick, but my freedoms.
And you know what? I think you have to think that you're more important than everyone else. To be like, well, my freedom, I shouldn't have to wear that.
But you see, they got around that by trying to say it's not actually a big deal. So I'm not actually putting anyone else in danger. This is all just ridiculous. But
you're like, according to you, but that's still kind of like, well, that's what I think is true. And you're like, but you could be wrong, and all these other people who are afraid of dying could be right. So
yeah. And what's the problem with just putting on a mask? And now, and yes, I understand, like anything, there are exceptions, like people who have maybe certain, like whether it's like sensory issues or
it was
autistic, or like I've also known people who just have a lot of like PTSD regarding like having their mouths covered. I get that.
A lot of autistic people loved it because it was way easier to talk to other people, because only the eyes were doing the feelings. And sometimes when somebody's whole face is like one big feeling, it can be really overwhelming. Like I stop hearing what somebody's saying if I'm, because I pick up a lot on people's like emotion faces and nonverbal. Not necessarily like could I name the emotion, but like I kind of feel it too, and it freaks me out because I'm like, what is that? I don't have a name for it, and and so I'm like, look away. But I can make a lot more eye contact when everybody's wearing masks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because the rest of my face could just do the autism. As long
which is always appreciated. Yeah.
As long as my eyes were doing the people.
I like doing people with my eyes. Anyway, so that was my frustration with, my like anarchist libertarian friends. It's like they just had that attitude. Well, as soon as the government tells you to do something, we're just going to think it's bad. It's like, well, the government also tells you to feed your kids. You're going to stop doing that too. Like, because I think if you're familiar with
me to, if I don't want to, that's up to me. like why are you even thinking about that?
Right. So that's why I don't know if you're familiar with Robert Higgs.
Maybe
he's maybe like less in the spotlight now, but he was like I don't know if he was technically anarchist, at least libertarian, like author, speaker, thinker, whatever. So I started following him around that time, and he was saying things like so if the government tells us like that we have to start looking both ways when we cross the street, or like, are you going to think that that's like you're going to call anyone who looks like just a bunch of bootlickers and just walk out into traffic without looking now? It's like, yeah. So even like he was like calling like his fellow libertarians out on that stupid shit. So I'm like, yeah. And I remember like I shared his post about that, and this friend of mine who was like very like libertarian anarchist is like, I don't really get what he's saying. I'm like, yeah, I know you don't. Dumbass, but yeah. But anyway,
what's it called when somebody is an ideologue or a demagogue?
Ooh.
And they're like libertarians can be some of the most demagogic people.
Oh, absolutely.
Like religious, like they're like my freedom though is like their religion.
Yeah, there were like some parts of like the libertarian crowd are actually apparently like were taking the position, especially when it came to masks. They're like, not only are we against mandates, and I will say, like, as much as I was like pro wearing masks, and I'm still like pro vaccine, like
it sucks there had to be a mandate.
Yeah, like because I still am not quite comfortable with mandating that things, especially vaccines, because like when it comes to like actually injecting something in your body, I'm not quite cool with the government telling me I have to.
Right.
But it's one of those things like,
but they did it because they had to.
But and again, with exceptions, because I know with certain vaccines there are certain people who can't take it for whatever reasons. Like, you think like, oh, penicillin. Well, some people are allergic to penicillin.
It'll straight up kill some people.
Yeah, even something like, I didn't even know this was a thing until it happened to my dad. But like, he's allergic to apples, which like, so and he,
did you know apple seeds have cyanide in them?
Yeah, like a little bit.
Yeah,
but that was especially ironic because he was a doctor. So that whole like, so actually,
it keeps that doctor away forever.
Yeah. so please don't.
Yeah,
I like my dad. But yeah,
so I like it when jokes are wrong a little bit.
Just a little, just the right amount. But yeah, so. Yeah, understanding there are exceptions, even the vaccines. So even when I would say things like, "Everyone, please get vaccinated." Of course, people coming out of the woodwork. What about people who are allergic? Okay, well, obviously, I'm not talking about.
Yeah,
and it should be like.
Well, what about this straw man? Huh?
Yeah. That's why I said like
he's made a straw. You just like blow him away.
like other situations involving someone's body and their decisions, like there should be something that's left up to someone and their physicians. Now, like me in my case, especially like being a stage 4
pregnancy.
Yeah.
And
be left up to people whose actual business it really is not. But here's the thing with diseases and pandemics: what you do with yourself can very quickly becomes other people's business.
Mm-hmm.
So no, like and like with so many things where I really do not see it as the ideal that the government should be forcing people to do things. But at the same time, it's like, but why don't you just want to? If this is actually going to be helping people, like you said, the government shouldn't be having to force you to not be an asshole. But
I think what I was just thinking was, so like governments they don't do something that will be controversial without a reason. And so
typically.
I think that, yeah. So Nick, normally sometimes that people are just like, oh, I didn't see that coming at all. But if they know that it's potentially controversial, like pushing like a mask mandate or a vaccine mandate. So I was just thinking the reason why they might have done that was because if people didn't do that, the projected consequence of that, the amount of like casualties, from the pandemic, like it may have broken our system, like the amount of people that would have been sick at once, like mass casualty events, like outside hospitals, or because people who couldn't get in, or the economy just utterly tanked because there aren't enough people to do anything, like to even have places open. So I was just thinking they may have pushed it like that because like it could have been catastrophic for our country. Like we just bottom out because it just broke everything.
So maybe the thinking there is like, I guess maybe in kind of in an opposite way with like how we were talking about like with the Supreme Court case and other things that are like on paper that the government can do, they tend to do more. So I guess like with the citizenry, it's almost like whatever's on paper, we actually tend to do less. Because like people technically like commit crimes and felonies like all the time. So I guess the government kind of has to take the approach of, well, we have to order them to go to 10 just to get them to actually go to 5. Something like that. But again, as anarchist at heart as I still am, I get the whole like slippery slope argument, like,
but it does stop somewhere.
Yes, like because we're like compromise is like a dirty word essentially. It's like as soon as you let the government do this, they're not going to give that power back, and they're going to keep overstepping and overstepping and overstepping. Like,
no, compromise in government is probably over for about 10 to 20 years. Like it's going to be a dirty word for like both parties.
Yeah, but like I said, at the same time, it's like, but since I guess it wouldn't be necessary if so many people didn't have the attitude of, well, this is what they're saying we should do, even if the government's not actually mandating it. If these are just their recommendations, they're like, well, fuck that, whatever it is.
I'll do the opposite.
Yeah,
because I'm a dumb piece of shit.
Like, well, first, I guess step one is like, if you don't want them mandating stuff, then just do the normal, decent human shit without them having to tell you, and don't just immediately recoil at anything just because that's what they're saying you should maybe do.
But, like let's act not just mutual benefit, because I don't think that's good enough. I think we should strive for some kind of like equal benefit in all our interactions. And then the thing is, like, if one person's benefit might not be like comparable to another person's benefit, so then you have to talk to the other person and like get their opinion on, is this equal or not? And so it's not like compromise where like you use the compromise to try to like one up somebody in the next compromise. Like it's more like actual equal mutual benefit, which is one of the socialist democrat, or was it like, I think libertarian anarchist, which is weirdly more socialism. Kinda.
Depends how you
go, because it's libertarian ideas, but like nothing is held sacred except what people want, and so then like you can't have like a liberal ideology that you hold above everything else, because like no idea is sacred. What we're going to do is what most of us want to do. Like,
dude.
And you know what's crazy? All right, this is
me.
Like for the first time in history, okay, of the world as far as we know, unless there were other advanced species before us, because the Earth has been here a long time.
It's true.
This is the first time in history where all we have to do is be the people we want people to be and be online doing that. And it will shape things. Like, it's because people can't sell us stuff. Like, if they're not selling us things that speak to the people we want to be. And not who anybody says we should be, but who we want to be. Like, what is, like, what do we think, like, the next better version of ourselves is? And, like, operate from that. And then that'll break the algorithm. Because the whole thing now can't survive unless you give us what we want. Like, they've kind of anarchized the whole, like, world in a way, because like aha, now fuckers, the system is set up so that you just have to give us what we want for you to keep making money. And without the money, there's no power, and it's like, you realize, like, in an effort to, like, really fuck us over with, like, a whole, like, big data and stuff, like, you've kind of democratized things in a way that you can't control. Because if they start showing us more of what they want us to see, well, we'll just stop interacting with whatever it is, because it won't be what we want. And so then we'll start doing things other places, and they will lose a lot of money. And so for the first time in history, I think people have more real direct control of what happens than anybody wants to, like, admit. The whole voting thing, like, sure, that, like, has an impact. You, like, don't vote for human shit, like, if you can help it. And but, like, if we just stop voting and we're vocal about why we're not voting, both these guys suck, I'm not going to vote, and then you tell other elected representatives or senators that, you know, like, at the federal level, like, I'm not voting, here's why. You're like, if you want me to vote, do better. and then they'll start giving us what we want. The whole thing of, like, we have to vote for one or the other, or these are the guys we have to care about. We could just start living different, and then they'll have to catch up.
Yeah, that could be the way out of this.
So America's fasci period might not last as long as it won't last as long as other times in histories of other countries, because information is chaotic and it can't be really controlled. So I think people would snap out of it sooner. Hopefully we don't put troops on the ground in Israel and it becomes kind of a Christian nationalist holy war effort, which then puts us on path to, like, then you have Christian nationalists in the Middle East fighting what they think is the end of the war, holy war.
Oh, yes.
And, like, that would be a terrible idea, except for that. Put the Bible stories in front of them for real, and they will forget 70 Virgins of Islam. Like, it's gonna just be orgasmic for them to go like be the white knight for Israel, which is also very white, weirdly.
Yeah, quite white.
Like, the other whites need some white knights. Let's go to the weirdly white Jewish people that, like, you know, like, I love the Jewish people, even the ones that look like Arabs, because they are Arabs. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
Jewish Arabs? And you're like, yeah, dummy. Like, did you realize you weren't just being, like, pro-Israel, you are also being racist? Like,
a bit. Yeah, because, I mean, you also, like, going way back, I mean, like, the Israelites were essentially kind of, from what I understand, were originally like Canaanites or like part of that group. So like they're all like just a group of people over there that
they were like the Hilljacks of the Canaanites.
Yeah, that they have more in common than even most of them would like to admit.
For
probably.
Real. Yeah, like Israeli cuisine, like unquote unquote, is just like Palestinian cuisine. It's Palestine cuisine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to get to the more like kind of positive aspects of this, like light at the end of the tunnel. But first, also in the interest of discussing certain things and also making the description for the video that I already typed up beforehand hopefully more accurate because I never know what to actually type for. I always try to balance like, okay, here's what I think we're going to talk about tonight.
How to Dystopia? Is that...
Yeah, but also like thinking like, okay, we may or may not actually get to the stuff in the description, but I need to put at least something in there so people actually want to watch it, and it's not just, hey, we're going to talk about stuff tonight. What? But please watch.
Don't miss out.
Don't miss out on what?
That would kind of be awesome. What are you going to talk about? Well, I don't know, but you're not going to want to miss it.
How do you know? Oh, I know. But yeah, so because basically this came from like, I mean, a lot of our topics come from us just kind of like texting back and forth, sometimes day of, and we're like, hey, what do you want to talk about? I'm like, hey, here's some things. I'm like, yeah. So we talked about how like just the concept of, like you were saying, like when it comes to like social media and the algorithms, like we're constantly being fed like really just all the things we want, which again, that's something that can kind of go either way because I was thinking about that concept, like whether like all the stuff that we receive really is just like what we wanted anyway, but then also, sometimes, but sometimes it definitely still feels like it's still controlling in a way. So it's almost like, because as much as people like maybe want to change, it's almost like just like latching onto a certain aspect of like who you are or where you're at right now. So, okay, that stay like that, stay like that. So it, or even if it is a place where you're fine staying with, is like if you just maybe view this like one little aspect as just like, well, this is just part of my like larger personality, but then the algorithm's like, no, this is your personality now. This is who you are. Like you can't deviate from this. And is that making sense?
But then all you should do is deviate from it. Like realize that if there's a level of control. Like, I think
that's all you have to do. But
if we learn to recognize the control or the attempt at it, and then because we can be controlled, like we are, and then like the idea is to kind of like wake up to that and like, where am I being controlled and where am I actually doing what I want? And then after that, this is kind of like a good transition into like the how to Dystopia. I can't even see the full title. I'm just assuming that's what it says.
That is what it says.
Okay. Like acknowledging where things are and what were we just talking about?
The algorithms like feeding into like who you are, but only a certain part of who you are.
Yeah, like waking up to trying to figure out like where we're being controlled, where we're not, what we want to do, and then I think that's what's happening now is we're transitioning, we're finding out what we really want.
Yeah.
Later.
Good night.
Thanks.
Thanks for hanging out.
Yeah.
Appreciate you. Finding out what we really want. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't think we really know, like as a species.
Yeah.
And I think we're about to find out. Like, are we actually trying to end ourselves? Like, I don't think so.
No.
I think
at least not consciously.
No, I think there's a portion of people operating from like a previous dynamic that just isn't how it is anymore, and now they're kind of doing like exactly the things to tank everything, and then but the good news is like that group is aging out, and most younger people I think even the ones that are getting like super conservative now, like some of that is like, or a lot of that is driven by like guys waking up to like what they want, and maybe they've been trying to do what they should for so many years of their life that like when somebody finally made it okay, like Trump, to like say whatever you're thinking, and it's like, well, maybe what they're thinking right now after being like not themselves for so many years, now they're just like whatever was most repressed is coming out. Like,
oh yeah, I mean, yeah. I feel like
but they're figuring out who they are, man.
And I feel like I say this every week, but there's something we touch on that I'm like, oh, I feel like this could be a whole episode. I think we do as much as we've been talking about politics tonight. I think just doing another full episode like just on politics, that's something I still want to do. So I won't go into as much as what I was about to say. I'll save that. But yeah. Sorry for derailing you, only to say that I won't derail you.
No, I think we should start living like, let's assume that like there's a temporary dystopia coming, okay? And maybe we're already in it. Like, if you really pay attention, this is kind of what a capitalist dystopia looks like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and certainly, I mean,
wait, I wasn't done. And so we like, I think we need to ask ourselves, okay, if the dystopia has already started, I need to start practicing who I want to be in a possible dystopian future. Like, do I want to be somebody who I was thinking about today, like getting involved in a farm co-op again, if there's anything that like makes sense for us. Because if you get like produce or meat from local farmers, and you can like buy into the herd or whatever, so you're like a partial owner of the animals, and so it's like a legal workaround so that you can just like avoid a bunch of shit with government and stuff, and and that way, like that's you're getting great local stuff, helping people out, but and at the same time, like if protesters have blocked the highway and all the local grocery stores can't get any shipments of meat or whatever was coming in on those semis, you have access to, you know what I mean? Like it's just more the ability to be more resilient, like just as a person and as a culture, as a family. I think that's a good idea. Yeah, and I think preparing for the dystopia probably would prevent it from happening.
Yeah, it's certainly a thing I would love to be wrong about. But yeah, because I think like with things like what you're talking about, I think when a lot of people hear things like that, like they just hear things like preppers. And kind of get that image in their mind. Like I feel like again,
I'm just talking relationships with people instead of businesses,
right? Yeah, because I think when people take it to take a good idea to the extremes, that gives the idea itself a bad name. Like no, there's like definitely like sane, like moderate, smart ways to just be prepared for shit.
I was talking more like training to be part of a resilient community, not a resilient one. Like that's what preppers are all about. Like my compound of one. Like what will we do to survive? And it's like, well, you'll be fine for a minute, but like you're fucked, buddy, if you're not talking to other people.
And how many guns do I need to get to keep everyone away from my stuff? Yeah.
Like no. You need to work with a group that is probably going to do well. That's how that would work. And so like we need to find our groups of people we connect with. I think, and we need to start. This is just good for being a person. Like my neighbor sprayed this like wild grapevine that we let grow on our fence, but it like cuts our driveway in half. Like one side is mine, one side is his, you know, and and we like the wild grapevines. And I think he was getting ticked that it was growing up on his gate. And so I think he sprayed. It wasn't a killer kind of thing. I think it was more like a defoliator. So like it killed all the leaves on this one part of the vine. And I'm thinking, well, he probably thought that was less invasive than like talking to me about it or something. But I was gonna offer, like when we came back from vacation, it happened while we were on vacation. I'm just guessing he sprayed it, and like this whole like it's dumb that he didn't feel like he could just talk to me, and it's dumb how I was thinking about it, like trying to figure it out. Like, why is it so weird? Like, I can't just be like, "Hey, this is Diane. What happened?" Without it sounding like I'm accusing him of something. You know, like this is we're all dependent on institutions like churches or like our favorite and trustworthy like news media channel, and we trust like these strangers who sell us something more than we trust the people around us for things. And I think that's how we stop being controllable in that way, is like we don't need you. You know, like we allow you into our world. Like you really do exist because we allow it. Like you know, as a structure, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Not as a person.
Yes. You're still allowed to exist as a person. Yeah.
And so like who are we? Who do we want to be? Let's start being those people. If you're like a conservative person, like, do you really want to be the person that like beats up hippies? Like, because if protests start happening and you like get involved in that, like it's gonna start happening around you, and maybe out of self-defense, that's what happens. And like, so do you want that? Like, do you want that to even be a possibility? Like, is that trajectory appealing to you? And we just need to be who we want to be, and that will start to happen like on a larger scale, you know?
For sure. Yeah. Cause that's something I think about a lot. Like, cause as an introvert who probably has things like social anxiety as well, maybe a touch of the tism, like, so when it comes to things like social media and like digital communication, like for me, this is fantastic. Like I don't have to like talk to someone face to face, especially when it comes to like texting versus calling. Like the conversation can happen at my own pace. Especially like with social media interaction, like I can just, like for me, like the whole like, going back to like, you know, the days like when I had a blog, you know, like in college, it's like, oh, this is great because like I can share my thoughts with people without them like having to ask me first and have to like actually engage in conversation. I can just say what I want and people can still like hear me and understand me. This is great.
Yeah.
But
I have a hard time with social media, even like half the time. So like I have a hard time in person and social media. But yet I'm saying this and I'm like only able to do it a fraction of the time.
Yeah, but now also not saying I'm great at communicating like virtually like either by any means, like maybe sometimes. But it's like I'll talk so much about how many like friends I've made like online, like through like doing the show and like being connected with so many people like that I would have never had a chance to meet like just like in real life, like without like, you know, the virtual platforms and everything. But at the same time, like, so I've been living in this house for like almost a year. I have like actually met 2 neighbors, you know, and one of them was like, I know like it was like awkward as hell because like we already, because that's just how I operate. But like, because there's things like, you know, I'll be like playing with my son out in the backyard, like he'll want to play catch, like with baseball, but like sometimes a throw will go like Aaron like go over the fence, but I'm like into like the neighbor's yard, but I'm like, I don't know if I want to actually like not go and like actually knock on my neighbor's door. It's like, hey, can my son go in? So I usually just let him like just run into their yard and grab it. But because I feel like when it comes to like actually talking to my neighbors, it's like just like the in real life structure to me like doesn't make as much sense because I'm like, well, I could just go knock on their door, but I don't know if they're home, and also like I don't know how much people like to answer. I know I don't like answering my door every time it's like there's a knock. I'm like, who does that anymore? But
it's gotta be pretty organic, like just take advantage of. See, when there's an opportunity to say something and it's more fluid, and then little things, like you say a little bit more than normally would.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like for me, like the organic opportunities don't really happen because, like, one, I work from home and I have no life, so it's not like I'm really like outside. Like, and like even if I do go out, I usually like park in my garage. So it's like I just get in my car in the garage, and then like I'm never really like outside or whatever. But yeah,
well, that does make it difficult. But then, I guess something like that, like. And I'm not telling you should do this. It's just like sometimes we hear about something and it's like, oh, that's an option. Like sitting on your front porch, or
I do that a lot. Yeah,
but then if they don't come out very much, or they're just like, as soon as they come out, their back is just turned to you, and then it would be weird to be like, hi.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, I actually do like that. That is one of my favorite things to do is like sit out on my front porch, like especially in the evenings, just hanging out. But then, like, if my neighbors do come out, then I'm like always like trying not to make eye contact because like that would be like weird. It's like I'm just here.
Yeah.
And if we accidentally do make eye contact, I'm like, hey, back to my beer.
Like how do I send the vibes that I want you to talk to me, but not in a way that involves me talking to you first.
But yeah, because I mean, I would at least like to just like know who my neighbors are if it was like a case of like even like have some of their phone numbers. So if I'm away, I'm like, hey, can you check out my house? Like, here's the code for my keypad on the front door. Because like, ready to check something, or things like that. Or if they know, hey, my son like is mostly really good at throwing a baseball, but for the times when he's not, he's going to be coming into your yard to retrieve a ball or whatever. But yeah, little things like that. But that's
going to be like really helpful to have your neighbor's like number to text them. But then you have to go through the. Isn't it weird that like getting somebody's phone number so that you can text them is somehow a bigger deal than just texting them? You know what I mean? Like if you got over the hurdle of getting the phone number, like it'd be way weirder to just like out of nowhere saying, "Hey, Asher's coming to get a ball" or something like that, and like I don't know if you were home last night, but something looked weird, like everything fine, or what I mean.
Or like in one of my neighbors' yards, it's actually
getting the phone number is like a bigger deal, and it's like, whoa, I don't know you. And it's like, but we would send somebody a text, like it's not even equal.
Yeah, because like recently there was an issue like with another neighbor. Like I'm pretty sure there was like a baby deer that was like somehow got into her backyard, but it was like completely fenced in, but like the deer like couldn't get out. Like it seemed like that thing was in there for like at least a week. Like.
Really?
Like it was still like it was still getting around. It was like eating stuff, and like and I actually saw it at least once. Like one of the adult deers, like that comes through our yards like all the time. It came in and like I guess it was their mom, and like it fed them for a little bit, and then I guess just moved on. But I haven't seen the deer back there, but recently, so that means it either got out or died somewhere. But anyway, one of those things like I didn't feel like I was comfortable. First of all, like I didn't know when this neighbor was home. Like if I could just like knock on their door and say, hey, I think there's a baby deer trapped in your yard. Like, but yeah, because there were a couple times I was tempted to just maybe like open the gate to see if the deer would come out, but then I wouldn't want to let like something else into her yard or whatever. But
so that was supposedly like if a mom deer leaves a baby deer somewhere, they did it on purpose, and that's what you should assume, and that like the mom will be back to get them, but they've indicated to the fawn that like they shouldn't leave, and so like clearly that fawn got in there, and so maybe they were like weren't supposed to leave, and that was part of it. So mom was coming back and feeding it. She might have been like, "This is sweet playpen."
Yeah, but there were definitely some times you could see like the fawn was like maybe trying to get out. It was like walking the fence and was actually like crying out and stuff.
Oh,
but
yeah,
I don't know.
okay.
Maybe it just didn't quite get it yet. I don't know. But anyway, haven't seen it in a while. Maybe it's fine now. But anyway, all that to say,
the person didn't like try to like let him out or anything.
No, I mean, I don't know if she knew. I know that the neighbor saw it there once, but I didn't know if she like realized it was actually like there for that long.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, socializing. That can be weird.
Yeah, but I think we just need to make it like. I think people who are socially awkward, autistic, or otherwise, like we just need to make it known that like this is just how we be, and and it's because like our brains process things differently, not wrongly, and and let people know like what our internal rules of life are, like how things just work for us.
Yeah, and from what little I can gather around, like at least my immediate neighbors, like on both sides, like it does at least seem like they're both like pretty like generally progressively minded, like not just politically, but like when it comes to things like neurodivergences, different lifestyles, they seem like pretty cool, like open-minded people or like stuff like that. So that feels good, which is not as common of a thing in this part of town. So it's nice to have that in the end of my little cul-de-sac here,
which is weird because it's one of the most diverse parts of Cincinnati, like as far as black and white. And Hispanic too, Latino. Is it Guatemalan? There's a big
it's specifically Guatemalan. There's like a large community in this area, which has led to there's some fantastic restaurants around here. That's for sure.
What's weird? It's probably like one of the least welcoming parts of Cincinnati for minority groups or people of color. But it probably has the biggest blend, and it's like they feel welcome there, and it's like racists doing a bad job, like a really bad job.
Yeah, please continue doing a bad job. But speaking of welcome. Susan, hi. You did get here. I don't know if this is at the end. We haven't decided yet. We'll see.
We usually decide like when it starts getting really weird. Like more than weird.
But speaking of like other things, like I feel like we'd be remiss if we went an entire episode
bereft
without talking right? Without talking about how much Christianity sucks. Because I feel like we haven't got there much now. But yes, when it starts getting weird, that's when it gets fun. So let's get weird and fun. So one of the things that you like when you were texting me earlier, just the whole and what you mentioned here tonight already, like touching on the whole like Christian nationalism angle, and when it comes to like the world getting terrible and how much that kind of gives them an erection. Whether they have the equipment for one or not.
It's like if we're fighting for God, maybe even literally fighting, and even better for Israel, then like we're clearly in the best of the times, near the end times, and
because they're His special people, don't you know?
Don't you know? 'Tis the gospel.
From Wisconsin there for a second for some reason.
And so, Just America. This. What's coming next? This shitstorm brought to you by Christian nationalism, or it was a professor.
Yeah, so real quick, you get us going on this. I need a beer. So keep talking.
There was a professor. I don't know from where. He is he's like an African studies professor, but he had this awesome thing, and I want to. I wish I had his name because I just want to give him credit by name because I thought it was awesome. So if he's a Christian nationalist, if you switch it around and say nationalist Christian or nationalistic Christian or whatever, now you get to abbreviate it as Nazi. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's so perfect. Nazi.
I've heard that too.
Like that's just primed for like online. Maybe that professor didn't come up with it, but
I've heard that a couple places. I think that definitely needs to be a thing. Let's make the Nazi
Oh, and then here's another one that I heard today. This is from Greg Stoker. I don't know if that's where it originated, but look him up online. He's one of the vets doing like analysis.
Greg
and
Stoker,
stuff.
you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's a former Army Ranger intelligence guy, and he's sharing the kinds of things that are happening that regular news isn't reporting on. And he has apparent. It seems like he has a network of people currently enlisted and serving who who basically want to protest what's happening in general, like in Palestine, but also other dominatory things across the world. And so he'll say things sometimes like when America says like the spokespeople at press conferences when they hear like so when we hear about something like, oh, there was that like middle school girl who was her whole carload of family trying to flee where Israel told them to flee was bombed, and she was on the phone with emergency services, the Red Crescent, trying to get help to her, and then sniper fire and I think it was armored vehicle fire killed everyone in front of her, and they thought she was dead, I guess, for like several hours, and they were trying to get the Red Crescent to her. When the Red Crescent showed up, Israeli snipers killed the Red Crescent, and then that girl was killed, and I don't know if she was on the phone at the time, but it was one of those things where clearly not a threat, and the Red Crescent clearly not a threat. It's just war crime on top of war crime, and he's sharing that kind of stuff, and so his nickname for Biden is genocide, like President Genocide, and like sucks that works.
Yeah.
The U.S. intelligence services are on the ground in Israel assisting with targeting, because that's what we always do when there's an ally doing this kind of thing. There's also been a global hawk, like 24/7 surveillance plane circling Gaza, like since before the conflict started. And so whenever the U.S. spokespeople say, well, we're referring that back to Israel, we're investigating it, we're not really sure, that is bullshit, because they have 24/7 video coverage of all of the Gaza Strip, to the point where you can zoom in, play it back, read license plates. Like, we know exactly what is happening. No one in the military leadership is ignorant of what is happening. Like, we're helping with the genocide, we're funding it, and it's because we have an old as dirt president who still thinks that this is like la la land where Israel's always good, and like no, even if they were in the past, not currently. And like this is not,
at least the government. Let's, be clear,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and even the Israeli people have been propagandized quite a bit, and so they've been unwillingly complicit in things that. So like, no, it's not even fair to hold what the government is doing against its people, because they've been propagandized as much as anyone. So. No, it just sucks.
It's also, I don't want to make it like, and I know I'm assuming I speak for you, we're also not exactly pro Hamas.
No, I'm pro Palestinian. I'm pro Israeli. I am not pro Hamas, and I'm not pro Netanyahu government.
Right. We're pro with like just the regular people caught in the middle who don't want people to die.
Right.
On all sides. Yeah.
Like, it would be ideal if everybody could just vote. Like, and they all vote, but if they did that, there are more Palestinians than Israelis in Israel, and so if it did go democratic, it would upset the whole thing. It wouldn't be.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be. It wouldn't be
Yeah,
Jewish
sure.
land at Epcot Center anymore. Like that's basically what it is
Yeah.
for Americans anyway.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, but as Susan says, yeah, nuance is lost on a lot of people in the whole Israel Palestine situation.
Oh,
yeah,
and it makes sense. Like I don't like it, and it makes sense. Like it would be unreasonable of me for like to have different expectations of either side, because like everything that happened before this led up to this. Like this is just what happens next. It's
unfortunately, yeah,
it's too late to change it. You know, like so that's my kind of angle with like if extra bad news is coming our way soon, and like over and over again. Like what did I say right before that? I distracted even myself because I was concerned that was too negative, and then I'm like, oh shit, no, I'm just leaving it on the negative. What was I saying?
I don't know. No, like now I'm on the spot to try to remember.
No, like
I guess I was focusing on the new beer.
Like we need to forget about what's happening now. Like politics has us all hung up on what's happening now. It's like fuck now. Like now is already decided by the past. Okay.
Yeah, now sucks.
And but be in the present moment and focus on like where do I want this to go, and then start acting on that. Because if you get caught up on what's happening now, too late. Everything that caused it to happen already happened. If we can change it, too late. So how do we address what's coming next? Because what's coming next is already being shaped by now.
Yes.
You know, like options are limited for the near future.
Yeah.
So America and the world will be whatever we want it to be eventually. And we need to stop believing anybody who tells us different. You know, because if more people, once you hit a tipping point, that's just what happens next. Like whatever the most people believe, which is where there's a problem, then that's where you're going next. And I think we're gonna have to love our Christian brothers and sisters even more intentionally. Because some of them are going to get swept up in the fashy, thinking they're like on God's team, you know, and they're like, I'm doing good things. And it's like, yeah, a lot of people thought they were doing good things in World War II Germany until it was too late.
Yeah. Now, before I take this another direction, just a real quick, and I don't want this to become a full thing, but just something to say like about the whole that era Germany thing, because people love to talk about, and I'm not saying that this is all overblown or exaggerating, could be very accurate, but people will say like, oh, look at what's happening now, and then look at what was happening in Nazi Germany leading up to World War II. Like this looks so similar, and like it's like everyone only compares it to that, which became a terrible thing. What I'd be interested in, and like I said, this is like a legitimate thing I would love to hear someone talk about because I just don't know. But what I want to hear about is if there are other countries or other places where this kind of things happened that didn't turn into Nazi Germany. And like, what did those people do to keep it from going that far? And does this sort of necessarily lead to that? Like,
well, so I've read the I think it was a history of Antifa, because this is back when I was conservative, and I read that because I was like, what is all of this about? And I was like, what is even that? It looks like they're doing I can see they have tactics and they're doing the same kinds of things. I'm like, but I have no idea why that makes sense to anyone. Like, why is it? How does anybody think this is good? And I still don't think. I think Antifa is kind of a more militant branch of something that's not necessarily bad, but some of the things they do are bad. I still don't think a lot of their stuff they do is very tactical, and they haven't been obviously active in quite a while.
Has been a while.
I have a theory about that. Part of their thing is, so fascism ends as soon as people want it to. But depending on how long it's been happening, it's more difficult to change it, and the more likely it's like a hot war situation. So so
fascism ends when people want it to.
Yeah. So the question is, like, whenever there's like a fascism phase, part of Antifa's goals are to just like groups like them. The reason why you get combative with police is because you want to show how fascist the police can get, and so you want to get that on display because there's already evidence, but like it doesn't matter if there's evidence if you can't get people to see it happening.
Right.
And so that's part of their goal. And so they got the fascist machine going, and now they've taken a step back because they're like, get the fascists revved up, pretend like there's a threat, like pull it, because you want to pull it out before it has time to get going. This is their angle. You want to pull it out before. Sorry, because you want to draw out the fascist tendencies in a populace before they've baked long enough to like get into something that lasts. So they primed the pump, and now they're letting Christian nationalists kind of like screw themselves over. They're like letting them be more of themselves, and it's getting more and more obvious, and because no one is challenging really so much anymore, and people feel more comfortable, and they're saying more things out loud. Like one of the guys behind Project 2025 said that the revolution will be bloodless if liberals allow it.
Yeah.
And I was like, even Russians like don't say that. Like the really rushy, like super like government Russian, where they're like, Russian is awesome, and like just the idea of Russia, as long as that survives, fuck all the Russians, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or like protect the ideal and not the people, like that kind of group. And I'm like, they don't even say that in Russia, like, where it's okay to say that.
Like, I heard that too, and it's almost like they think that sounds nice. It's like, we don't want this, but if it comes to it, it's their fault. It's like, no, it's not their fault. It's your fault for thinking this is worth taking it to bloodshed just because someone else doesn't want it. If someone else, look, this is the way, democracy or whatever the hell.
You're overlooking diplomacy with what he said.
Like that's the way this is supposed to work. If you have an idea, but the majority of the people don't want that, you don't do it.
Yeah. And that's something that we all can agree with, but it keeps getting twisted. Like, try to impose your ideas on other people. Like, no, we should just be like, okay, what do all of us want to do? And then like, let's do what more of us want to do. Like,
I mean, that's just like, like a mugger could like say to a person like, look, I don't have to shoot you if you just give me all your money. It's up to you. It's like that's literally what this is.
Yeah. And I was just thinking it. So if you take the perspective of, okay, like whatever most of us want to do, then that's what we should do. And then the people who are in the minority in that decision then have to say, okay, we have a choice. We can keep in the minority and work against the majority, but now we're working against the survival of all of us. And instead, I can say, okay, I don't necessarily agree with that, but like, I will do what, or I will go along with what most of us want to do, so that like what most of us want to do becomes good for all of us. You know what I mean? Like, find a way that this is good for all of us. Maybe not all of it is, but like leverage whatever good or bad things come our way. This works more for the bad stuff. Like, okay, how do you make that good for you? Or like, how does it become like, where's the good thing after that? Like, what? Let's say that was like like the worst, most terrible 0, and like, hey, what does 1 look like? What's the next better after that? I think it's an exciting time if we kind of like separate ourselves from whoever thought they were in charge. You know what I mean? Kind of like let all those people get it out of their system, and like the rest of us do our best to get by with each other. Look, the olds got to fight it out. The elderly need to fight it out. The old ideas need to figure out who's still boss, but before they realize that doesn't matter, because there's a new boss already. In this, it doesn't even matter who's the best old boss.
There could be only one, but yeah. But you know, at the end of the day, Matt, you know, it's all going to be fine, because Jesus is just going to come back and fix everything. So we'll be fine. So we don't have to worry about how fucked up things are. In fact, we could even like do whatever we want to fuck things up even more. And it won't matter, because that'll actually bring it back faster. So we're doing a favor by like fucking things up.
Because dominion over the earth means break it sooner. That's a very capitalist idea.
Because we'll just get a new one later. It's all good.
Yeah, dominion means rape and pillage, right? Said people.
Just dumb, yeah, for sure. But
no, I think it's an exciting time. I think the stuff that really matters is going to be on people's minds more. Like the people around me. That's what matters. That's what matters more. And everything's about to go like, it's politics is breaking down. We have a delusional like President Biden who like literally thinks he's living a different reality. His interview with George Stephanopoulos, and George was like, "Hey, so let's say hypothetically you lose, you know, and then like it's January 2025, and you lose everything that you thought that would go wrong in the country with Donald Trump is going wrong, and like, what would your reaction be?" And Biden was like, "Well, you know, as long as I felt like I gave him my best." He's like, "That's what it's really all about." And everyone else, including George Stephanopoulos in the entire world, was like, no, that isn't what this is about. You've even said democracy is on the ballot. And like, that could be true. Like that could really, really actually be true. And he's like, but that's what it's all about, giving it the old college bullshit try. I was like,
I didn't see that. That's awesome.
And you can't get him off of the Democrat ticket based on how everything of theirs is set up, and at this point, unless he voluntarily leaves the ticket. If we can't convince Grandpa he shouldn't drive anymore, he's gonna T-bone Donald Trump. Like, he's just gonna be like side impact.
Yeah. So and I don't want to get into this too much.
And Donald Trump will be the only one that survives. He'll have to be our president.
And when we don't want that, because so I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I'm so tired of like when people talking about the debate. and people trying to brush it off. It's like, oh, because my impression of the debate was Trump had no idea what the fuck he was talking about, and Biden had no idea where the fuck he even was. Like there was seriously a couple times I was like, is he about to fall asleep? Does he under I was actually literally concerned that he just did not understand what was happening. So, but people are trying to write it off. Like I actually saw people say things, oh, well, he just had a cold. As if that's supposed to make me feel better that just a cold did that to him.
Right. Okay.
And he's in charge of the fucking country.
I have a theory. Okay. Not that long ago, it seemed like people got out of Joe Biden's way. Like when they realized they weren't going to be able to convince him that he was just too elderly to pull this off. And nothing against the elderly. It's just like they shouldn't operate heavy machinery.
Right.
Probably not a country either. Like, and
I know that.
Yeah. And so there were. I think people got out of his way because they're like, you know what, we decided you're right. We're gonna, like whatever you want to do, and so since they can't make him quit, which they already tried, now they've pivoted to let's just get out of his way because the only thing we can do is let everybody see how bad it is, like the stuff that they've been hiding. Like, fine, let everybody see what we've been hiding, and now he's. Because there's been a whole lot of stuff like that interview with George Stephanopoulos shouldn't have happened. Like there should have been shorter form interviews. If he's only good like for a second, like it was just bad strategy. And so I really think they're letting him pull the strings, and we're seeing a great summary of the debate was. Trump was demented, Biden was deluded. And Trump is showing signs of dementia. Biden is showing signs of dementia where you have delusions, where you think an alternate world is happening.
No, and still to put, I guess, to maybe put some people at ease or maybe watching, I still am more comfortable with the idea of Biden as president than Trump.
Oh, because it'll be Kamala in charge because
here's my thing.
I think that's what's been happening already anyway.
Oh yeah, and or other people in the administration.
Like he signs, he signs. She signs the grown-up papers. He signs the pretend ones. That kind of thing.
Because here's what I think would happen. Like worst case, so if Biden is just mentally just completely incapable of doing anything, like other people in the administration will kind of take over and run things. But like with Trump, it's going to. That's the problem. It's going to be Trump running things. That's the problem.
And so if he starts, if he is having dementia challenges and that gets more pronounced, then Project 2025 takes over. Because everybody under him is a player in that plan, and so he's a figurehead at this point. Like I don't even think like the MAGA crowd like understands what they've gotten co-opted into. It's just like this transition should have taken probably at least a decade, and like this transition from like MAGA to Project 2025 kind of like fascism. MAGA was like transitional fascism. It wasn't like really there, but they were real friendly with the idea.
Yeah.
And then that was used as like a Trojan horse for like this real kind of fascist idea. And like things are happening so fast and people in charge are like on top of it more than us. And I think we just need to find out more of what's going on. Maybe not even like look for what is going on, but like just more, just like, like more angles on the same thing to get the clearest picture of what probably is happening and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that would help. Yeah, but speaking of getting like clear pictures and like taking in all the information and actually paying attention to like the clear facts in front of your face. back to the whole like Christian part of this, and the whole like that idea of whether they're more actively or passively just kind of letting the world go to shit because that means Jesus is going to come back and fix it. So here's my question to, I mean, not that I have any confidence that this is going to reach any of this crowd, but for the people who are thinking like that, like, well, I don't have to do anything, like either I don't have to do anything to help things get better, or it's okay if I actively help make things more chaotic and worse because that'll bring Jesus back quicker. What if you're wrong? Like, please seriously consider that. What if you're wrong?
What if it really absolutely looks like the end times are happening? And Americans, like good, like Christian nationalist Americans, are in Israel, helping Israel fight back the attack from the north from Hezbollah, which is part of the whole like attack from the north, like Revelation story. And you are sure that this is going to, like, this is what God wants. This is all part of the plan. This happens, and then Jesus comes back, and you are sure. And then what really happens is Israel as a nation crumbles. They become something new, probably a single state combination of everybody who lives within that area, and they vote and all that. But like the kind of catastrophe that would have to happen to change people's minds from where it is now in that area to where they're like, our own, like, oh, I see it. Our only hope is to work together. Like the place where we are, like what needs to happen for, like, I kind of shudder to think at this point what needs to happen for minds to change. Because we're at the point, like, just in general, that's like a microcosm. Like we're at the point now where like just across the board in all areas of the world, two opposing sides are like in opposition to each other. And for the first time in human history, like we're also for the first time, it doesn't seem to be in anyone's best interest to have like a large scale conflict.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like we know that, not just like it's a matter of opinion, but like if this happens, it will ruin this. Like Israel going into Gaza, like that was predicted to cause like Israel to start to crumble, and it has. If they go into Lebanon and attack Hezbollah, within a week, the infrastructure in Israel will be gone. We're talking like major ports, power plants, like police stations, fire stations. Like if Israel attacks civilian structures, civilian targets, like they said, they're going to level Beirut and make it look like Gaza. Nice, guys. Super awesome. Hezbollah then will start attacking civilian targets, and after 3 days, the Iron Dome runs out of ammo, and Hezbollah has way more than that. Like this is provably, even according to the Israeli intelligence, like the military intelligence, like if we go into Hezbollah, like in Hezbollah's area of Lebanon, like Israel's done. Like they it would be like 20 years before like rebuilding was a thing, and by that point they would be, the whole time they would have been like a pariah state. And like,
yeah,
that's what really sucks is like my sister knows a couple people because she went on a vacation to Israel, and she kind of like made friends with a couple of the tour guides, and so she's hearing from them, and like they're not hearing everything that like is on TikTok, because that stuff kind of gets blocked over there. And like sometimes it gets through, but when every other source is saying something slightly different, they're like, well, I didn't even know like the Palestinians were that upset, or like, I thought we were living from their perspective. We were living like side by side. They had their community, we had ours. Apartheid, but they had theirs, we had ours, and and they're like, but now all of a sudden it's this, and when Israel stops fighting, they lose at this point, and they're like trying to prolong the losing event.
Yeah,
but it's
because here's where I'm like,
and civilians are getting fucked in the process,
right? Because here is where I'm really torn on. I mean, as much as my opinion of the whole Middle East situation actually matters, but
yeah, right.
But as much like in this whole conversation, we've been coming down like very much like against like what the like Israeli government is doing and like in their military, and obviously like Hamas, Hezbollah, or whatever on the other side. The thing that makes this really difficult for me is when I look throughout the entire Middle East and just what it means to like just the day-to-day living in any of these places. If I were to move to the Middle East right now, I would go to Israel. Like, no question.
Why?
Because I'm an atheist.
Oh. Okay.
I mean, if you look like any type of person, like, okay, which is more welcome? An Israeli in any other Arabic country or any other Arabic person in Israel?
Okay. Yeah,
if you're LGBTQ and you're going to the Middle East, where are you going?
Yeah, Israel. Then I think I was confused because I was like, right now?
Oh no, I mean I don't mean like because I love explosions. No. I mean like
No, but no, that makes sense. But then the weird thing is almost,
I wish most of the Middle East was more like Israel in that aspect.
Yeah.
But
the weird thing is you're right. Like it is the most like liberal democracy in that area. And at the same time, it seems like the political group that has a lot of money and a lot of power right now is the very conservative branch, which is very nationalistic and like xenophobic and all that. Like it, and that group is very against LGBTQ people, and like they're Jewish nationalists to our Christian nationalists. Very similar ideas and stuff, and so like they've kind of been like allowing things to get passed and like to be like it's still really hard to get like married if you're LGBTQ, like if you're out like and you want to get married, like that's actually, it can be challenging in some areas, possible but challenging. So it's a weird dichotomy where like
I'm certainly not saying it's perfect by any means.
No, it's just really interesting, and the reason why I'm dwelling on it is because it confuses me, and I don't like it when things confuse me.
Yeah, I mean, you know, as much as I'm like not a fan of Netanyahu, I mean, I still like when I think about it, I think there still is something to like that famous quote of his. Like I don't remember what group, whether it's Hamas or whatever. He said like if Hamas or whatever would lay down their weapons, there would be no more fighting. If Israel laid down their weapons, there would be no more Israel.
Yeah,
I mean, I still feel like there's something to that.
Yeah, but what happened before that made that a reality?
Right.
So like that's true. That's true now. Well, why do they want to attack you? Not saying they're saying they're excused for attacking anybody.
Right. Yeah. So then this goes back
to why do they think that? Why do they think they're the good guys? Is the question.
Right. Because like the nation of Israel was created by, and stop me if you heard this story before, by displacing people who were already there. No, but then you go back even further. It's like, why
but
were
Tommy,
they
the Bible says that's fine.
Right? But then you also got to go back even further.
Wait, and that's what God told him. And white Europeans are basically God, right? So if they say this is your land, go take it.
Touche. but then you got to go like even back further than that. And okay, why did people think that there was a necessity for creating the nation of Israel in the first place? Now there's the whole like, okay, what really were their motives, like the whole behind the scenes, like their strategy, but also at the time, like what was happening to Israelis or Jewish people who were spread out in other parts of the world. Things weren't looking good for them. So creating a safe space for themselves to live in a way that made sense too.
Like good and bad. Yeah. I get you.
Yeah. Yeah. So like Susan says, nuance. Like this is one of those situations like where there is no pure good guy, bad guy.
Yeah. Like y'all done nuanced the hell out of the Middle East, and you guys are focused on good guys, bad guys.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, so basically you have this situation where you have this group of people who's being persecuted and like literally genocided in certain areas, but the people who decided to help them, like the best plan they could come up with was terrible for so many other people who are now understandably pissed off that they're there. So it's one of those situations like, so anyone who says that they can figure this out and they know exactly what to do, like they're probably full of shit. You're like,
I mean, it's just one of them talking. No, they're full of shit. If they're like, we've talked to like most of the people and this is what they want, like, you know, then it's like, oh, okay. But if you're this one guy with the answer, that's probably not the answer.
Yeah. So this again, to me, and again, for whatever my opinion on the situation is worth, like, I can't help but think, but if you were to just remove religion from the situation, I don't know if it would completely fix it, but it would at least make it easier, because a lot of the conflict comes down to we're Muslim, we're Jewish, and that's why we don't get along.
Kind of, but there's also another layer to it where, like
I said, a lot of it, not all of it, but
no,
that would at least make it easier.
No, that's the simplified version. But like behind that conclusion, there's a lot of stuff. Like, did you know there's like independent Arab media, or like religious Islamic people, but they deliver secular news, that kind of thing, and just hearing from the part of the world where like we've been doing things to for like 2 decades, and they're like, well, here's what it was like, and that's been crazy illuminating. Like, for example, did you know there's like this huge disastrous famine in Yemen, and that's part of why like the Houthi rebels like became something people wanted to do in Yemen? Because they're hella desperate, and exerting power over trade through the Red Sea was like, they're like, well, at least we can do that and don't bomb ships.
Yeah,
and it kind of makes sense.
But
I don't want anybody to bomb anybody.
Right?
And it usually makes sense. Like, whoever it is, like everybody has their reasons.
But I do want to make sure, like, make it clear, like, I'm not saying like if you remove religion from the situation that everything will be solved. I'm just saying like that's.
Oh no, I wasn't thinking that, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, just in case anyone else was thinking that, like, but I'm just saying like that's maybe just like, I don't even know if that would be step one. Maybe that's like even a pipe dream for that even to be a step.
I think it's certainty. I think it's just not just. It's like the certainty of religion or the certainty of politics. Whenever somebody's like, I'm convinced who the good guys and bad guys are.
Yeah.
No. when that happens, it's just gonna lead to conflict, like escalating,
Yeah, and to introduce yet another thought that needs to be its own episode. Something I thought of recently is I guess it was maybe more famously put in the subtitle of Christopher Hitchens' book "God Is Not Great." He said
That's a good book.
How religion poisons everything. So I think a lot of people take that, and maybe this is what Hitchens meant by it. I don't know, but a lot of people take that to mean well, there's just nothing good about religion, and it's only bad. So, but to me, it's the poison of religion is not that there is nothing good about it. To me, the poison is how it claims to be the only source of good, and you can only get good from this.
Yeah, because
that's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah. Because what if there's something better?
Mm-hmm. Or another, or the way I like to think of it is another. So all the good things. Because I like to think all the good things that you have in religion, you can still get them without religion, but then without all the baggage. But
you can get them according to what is good and helpful based on the information, and not what the ideology says.
Right.
It allows you to chase what works.
Yeah. It's just an unfortunate fact of reality for much of human history that religion has been the structure by which we have actually put in place different systems to actually deliver these different goods, whether it's things the community support, positive thinking.
Clearly we couldn't have survived without it. Otherwise we would have, so
well,
it was integral.
Yeah.
But I think we're outgrowing it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't, and again, this is maybe something else to explore. I don't know if it was actually integral or that was just maybe just the best we could do at the time,
or a side effect of something else that was important.
Yeah, because the
genes are so overlapped. It's more like a collection, a symphony of genes that do a thing, and I like that, a symphony.
Ooh,
that's kind of how it is. There isn't one gene or one group that does this. It's almost like every person's system kind of tweaks it a little bit, and so people's genes in this area usually do this, and sometimes they don't. Something like that.
Indeed. Yeah, but yeah, like I said, I feel like this topic could be another episode sometime. But back on tonight's topic, if there was a topic for tonight, was there anything else? Any other thoughts you had? Any other?
Well, I think in short, the world isn't how we thought it was. The world isn't like we want it to be. I think that's fair for everyone.
Yeah.
I think most people, it's not how they want it to be.
Yeah.
So
accurate.
Let's just start living how we want it to be. And kind of say, screw the politicians. We're just going to start doing it. I'm not saying do illegal things unless you super have to for I don't know, survival reasons and all that. But
for sure. Or if if it does actually become dangerous to be part of the LGBTQIA whatever community, hey, I'm a safe place. I'll be happy to break the law if it comes to it.
If the government is trans people don't really exist because that's not an official designation that will show up on any government document from here on out, and then we can just say, no, that's not a thing, and just keep referring to trans people. Okay, fine, if it's not an option on a government form, and that means that trans people become kind of an apartheided group of people. If that's what people want to put on us, we'll deal with it, and we'll get to the other side, and we just keep living as ourselves, regardless of what anybody tells us we have to do. Maybe comply with the law, where you work, but don't remove it from your conversation at work. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, and
Show the impotence of the system, like the impotence of the control.
Right. And only because like I'm a worrier and overthinker. So a minute ago where I was like LGBTQIA, whatever, like I wasn't saying whatever as in like it.
Oh
like,
yeah.
A lot of people kind of mock it. And it was mostly because like my brain just like literally could not remember the rest of the words. So that was just like
good catch.
Yeah.
Because whatever is kind of like a
Yeah. No, I'm meaning like
it can be like that.
How like whatever is in however you identify within that community. That's what I'm talking about, not the whole like all these letters. It's ridiculous. That's not what I was. Hopefully, people who know me know that. But
yeah. So to continue, like what I was getting at with like things are bad, worse than we thought. However, here's the great news. Okay, like it gets to be how we want it to be, and everybody else is just gonna have to catch up. Like it might get. We've had America has had a cushy run, but it wasn't it what's his nut Smith with like the whole like capitalism thing where he said like
Adam Smith
didn't he say like
the wealth of nations guy
like capitalist democracies usually only last like 250 years, and we're coming up on 250. It's like you fucker. I blame Adam Smith with his math or guesses. No, but like we're at the point where it really is how we want it to be. And like if whatever you're getting fed by wherever you buy stuff or like wherever you do your social media things, if you're being fed stuff and you're like, I don't like that. That feels like somebody's just trying to like do whatever to me. Or whatever it is, I don't like it. It's not what I want. Like you don't have to participate. And follow what you want and what you want the world to be like, and we'll sort it all out. Like if we're gonna be a fascist country, we'll figure it out. Like good luck, because this country is built on rebelling against things for the shit of it, you know. It's like you picked the wrong country. I'm just like, that's not gonna take. Do you know how many autistic and ADHD people there are in this country? It's like we're like a world leader, and try telling either of those two groups what to do. Get back to me.
It's like the whole like command avoidance will kick in, and
oh my goodness, I'm just gonna be like, no.
God bless.
if we can laugh at people as much. If you really, I hope I'm wrong and I'm just like a weirdo. But like, if you can't laugh at laughing at your oppressors takes away their power. Like, even if they do something to you for laughing, they can't get that moment back where they were ridiculous and somebody knew it. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that, and I don't know from personal experience, but I can imagine that, especially if you're trans, like laughing at people who are actively in the moment discriminating against you, and just like it doesn't feel safe, and it's an aggressive moment or an aggressive feel to the situation. I can totally understand how laughing in that moment is not a good idea. But I think whenever possible, everyone else who is safe enough to laugh at that should. If we think it's ridiculous, show you think it's ridiculous. And we'll figure it all out.
I hope. Yeah.
Well, it either ends or it doesn't, Tommy. I mean, this is kind of... I guess. That's how it always is, though, every day. Like, just because things have always existed doesn't mean they can't suddenly stop.
That's true.
So, I mean, every next moment either exists or it doesn't. And this is just more of that. But we need to, like, I really feel like we need to, like, just accept that. Like, certain things happen next. Like, now is how it is, and
Yeah, but at the same time, also like let's not act like we can just like pull out like a spare Earth from somewhere in case we fuck this one up too much.
No, I don't think we can. I think it's arrogant to say that
Yeah.
we can like break it beyond recognition, but there's this the system will rebalance itself. Like that's why I think we need equal benefit, because if whoever is usurping the other, it eventually swings back because it needs to like a scale. You put like even with like equal weights, if you drop one weight on one side, it'll go blah, blah, and then it'll balance itself out. We need to start rocking the scale so much so that we stop having these giant swings and just aim for equilibrium instead of aim to be the winner.
No. See, that's where, I mean, that's probably where the conflict comes, especially for Americans, like, because we all got to be winners. That's like apparently
because we are winners. But to always be the winner, you have to cheat. That's just how winning works. If you're winning almost every time, you're cheating. And America has been winning for a long time. And I think it's starting to come out where we've been cheating, or people have been cheating on our behalf, and we didn't know it. And there's a lot of people leaving the service like right now over what they're realizing the military is doing. And there was a law passed. You can be an active service person and become a conscientious objector, and you can get honorable discharge from being a conscientious objector if you go through the proper system. Like, it's currently legal for anybody who's serving and doesn't want to support whatever's happening because they feel it's immoral or illegal. If you get the right representation, people who know how to navigate the system, active duty can leave.
That's good.
Yeah. And there's already been 40 since I think the beginning of this year, which is a lot. It was not really being utilized previously. And now, yeah.
Yeah, because, and again, at the risk of like pissing a lot of people off, other thing,
support soldiers. I'll say that. I'll support people who serve in the military 100%. Unless they are a sociopath who likes to kill people.
Right.
But the institution fucks us all.
Yeah. Now, and again, this is a situation I don't know the full details of, but something else I at least don't hate Trump for as much as a lot of people seem to do is like what this whole thing about being a draft dodger.
Was he rich at the time? That's just what happened.
Like, see, here's the thing. I don't really mind that because the draft is bullshit.
Yeah, and so don't we all know that
anyone who can dodge the draft by whatever means, good for you.
No, especially that war, like, and I would say especially like the war on terror. Now looking back, but at the time I wouldn't have said that. No,
or like any war. Like I don't care what the war is.
Really saying a draft dodger for the Vietnam War? Do you know how few people that speaks to, even on the Republican side? Like, everybody knows that. Well, apparently not everyone. Nearly everyone knows that like the war in Vietnam was a tragic loss. It was across the board in all ways.
Yeah.
So fine, dodge that shit. Like.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Like, obviously, like, I'm apparently, at least currently, like, too old to like worry about the draft for me. But like for my kids,
I'm too special to serve.
Yeah. But like for like my kids, like once they're of age, like the draft like comes back and like their number comes up or whatever, like I will help them leave the country. I'm telling you right now.
Oh yeah.
Like,
you might need to go. Ironically, people might need to go to Mexico. Canada's too cooperative these days. I think it would probably be Mexico.
Yeah, whatever I got to do. Like I'm like even if it's like a war where I technically agree, okay, this is a just war. Like draft, no, that's bullshit.
No, and it's automatic now too.
Yeah.
So unless they make it, unless they revoke that thing where you can conscientiously object, but that would be really difficult to get that pushed through now that it's already in there. No, we're gonna. I think what we need to keep in mind, everyone, even on the side we completely disagree with, is doing what they think is best. And so I think the best thing we can do is to accept that, and that, like, I don't know of anyone who's wanted to be the villain or thought they were who was a villain. So we got to keep that in mind. Everybody's on the good side according to them, and since everything is good and bad in some ways, and like they kind of are and they're kind of not, and so are we, and we just need to find the best answer. Like,
somehow.
And if it's the best answer, like if the evidence shows the best answer, it isn't like a like democratic socialism or something like that, or like some version of non-Thunderdome anarchy, like like if that's what's best, let's do that. Like, I don't even care anymore. Like, I have an idea of what I think is best, but I'm willing to change my mind if there's something better. Like, let's focus on what is best, chase after that, and be willing to change it.
So
all this my side is good, your side is bad bullshit is just, it's crap. It's just crap.
Can't we all be wrong?
No, we are. We're also all right. But like, something is more correct.
Right. So really, I think that's kind of maybe a good way to wrap up and like kind of answer the question, how do we dystopia? It's like, that's what you just said, just understanding.
Yeah. Just do what
like
you
having
do.
Empathy and breaking away from the whole like tribalist mindset, whether it's ethnic or nationalist or religious or whatever it is, but just being okay with, or politically, like I said, like tonight, like neither of us are fans of Trump, neither are going to vote for him, but I think we both, like at least at some point tonight, said, well, here's a place where I think he maybe was right on something, or I do understand where, like,
if Ohio is in play as a swing state this election, I'm gonna have to vote for whoever's on the Democrat side.
Yeah. Now, here,
that's my personal
like another little teaser. Like when we do an episode, like actually on politics, I will reveal my strategy for how I'm going to vote. And folks are not going to want to miss that.
I would love to not vote Democrat.
Yeah, well, because my strategy may or may not disappoint you.
Biden's scary. They're both scary. Like, seriously, like whoever decided all this shit, this is what we got. This is the best we can do.
I will say my strategy on voting is kind of predicated on the assumption that really, no matter who wins, I will probably be okay.
Yeah, but we got to think like, okay, you're okay, but like, how short term is that gain?
Right.
That's important.
So, but like I said, I don't want to give away too much. But
no, it's a slow moving elephant. I mean, not in a Republican way. I'm just in general, like things are moving faster, but if we just kind of like stay in tune with like what is happening instead of what we want to happen or what we're just told is happening, just like get more information, additional, get a bigger picture. Like, even look at wacky stuff. Like,
get wacky.
Maybe a flat earther has some like really clear insight on politics or like where things are going next. Like, he could be totally wrong about everything but that. Just, you know what I mean? Let's not discount anybody. Somebody, even wrong people are right every once in a while.
Or at least right enough in certain areas.
Yeah. I mean,
right?
I think if people are still alive, they figured something out. Like, you know, like,
Yeah.
at least they're an
Blind
expert
squirrels.
in living as long as they have as them. Like, you know, I don't know how to do
Yeah.
that.
Right? Yeah. You know, they say broken clocks, blind squirrels, and nuts or whatever. All right. Well,
Oh, even a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. Is that
yeah.
what it is? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't have the connection.
I mean, I could make it dirtier if you really want. But...
my mind went eventually or immediately was like even a broken clock needs a good squirrel nutting every once in a while. I was like, what does it even mean?
I don't know, but I'm willing to find out if that's what it takes. Anyway, so I don't know. Do you think we like kind of made the whole like dystopian reality of America a little easier to handle now, or do you
I
think that?
don't know. It's like good news, we were already there and we didn't know. So how bad could it be? It's like it's probably not gonna get you know what I mean? Like we're probably like 50% fascist right now. Like and sort of like, oh, we only got 50% more. No, until it like corrects. Like
Yeah.
it's like good news. We're at 50% and didn't know. Bad news is this ride goes to 100. I'm telling you what I think you'll really appreciate Greg Stoker.
Greg
He's
Stoker.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's done a bunch of interviews on like a bunch of different indie things. Um, a lot of Islamic outlets, or not Islamic, Muslim, no Islamic, Arab. Shit, I keep getting my words mixed up because it's not all religious, it's not all Islam. Um, a lot of Arab outlets have been having him more than like Western outlets, just because uh, he's not like he's anti-imperial. Those guys don't get on the news around here.
Yeah.
But just watch him talk for a little bit, and you're like, "Oh, he's absolutely autistic."
Nice.
He's like an autistic military bro,
That's a fun combo.
and he's a black metal enthusiast.
Ooh.
Yeah, he wears black a lot, and yeah, he has like a I don't know, it's like a black hipster jacket, but like military hipster that he wears in a lot of interviews. It's really unusual to hear somebody who's like a really like dialed in like surfer dude. That's kind of what he sounds like. Just give you like straight up military like assessments of things are going on in the news, and then he switches into like he can't when he sits super still when he's not talking. This is where like the autism thing. If you watch him when he's listening to somebody, sometimes his face will do things like it's like that wasn't what happens when people say that. And then as soon as he starts talking, he starts rocking a little bit and like getting like real like surfer dude bro, but talking about like, yeah, if you're on the wrong contact list, they just give you the business. And I was like, but he went to Columbia and he has like a history degree, and you're like, nah, you're not normal. He's just fun to listen to, even like if you like completely disagree with him. He pulls no punches, and that's kind of like where I got more okay with if things get bad, like that's just how it goes. Is like matter of fact, like no, it really is that bad. Here's what happens. Here's what's happening now, and here's what we expect to happen when we're watching like foreign countries when they're going through this kind of thing. Here's what comes next. And I talked to ChatGPT, and AI agrees. AI agrees it's bad that Trump will probably win and probably has immunity. And I was like, how does this play out? And there, according to ChatGPT, we got 20 years until it either turns around or it gets like solidly fascist, because that's what most of us want. So it really just comes down to what do most of us want? And if it's going in a direction that we don't want to happen and voting isn't doing it, like, then I think we need to non-violently protest, always non-violently, because the reason why I say always is because organized violent resistance has, other than the American Revolution, has always ended in a more totalitarian situation on the other side. Because if there's armed conflict, who wins that? The one who's stronger. The one who does war better. And it's like, do you want who does war better in charge? Like,
yeah. Yeah. Good point. Yeah. All right. Well.
No, so like, it's like worse than it seemed, but it's also better than it seemed. In some ways. So it's just getting more extreme, people. Good and bad.
Yeah, in both directions. Yeah.
It's just really it's just gonna be bipolar for a little bit. But as soon as it figures out its meds, we'll be fine.
Cool.
Where are the meds? Be the medicine. Be the medicine, people.
There you go. I like that. Yeah. All right. Well, if for no other reason than I really need to pee.
Yeah, which probably.
Any final?
It's also one of our longest.
We've gone to 3 hours a couple times before.
Okay,
I mean, I went 3 hours all by myself a couple weeks ago.
Wow. I still need to watch all of that. I started watching it.
Yeah. I will say, like, towards the end, I think it was around the 2 hour, 20 something minute mark. Like, I got I was expecting myself to get somewhat emotional, but more on the kind of sad end. But I actually completely unexpected and unplanned got super pissed at a couple points.
Oh, good.
So
no, that's good.
So, and that turned out, and that actually also ended up, at least currently, is one of our most viewed episodes as well. So, I super appreciate that. I was wanting that to be.
Well, you told people that you wanted that if they wanted to understand you, watch this, and so I'm really glad that a lot of people watched it.
Yeah. Now, I'm glad that a lot of people have watched it. I'm kind of not glad that not a lot of people have really given me feedback or any comments or anything on it. So I'd love to see more of that, honestly. But
well, you get comfortable with something before you're comfortable talking about it. And so I think it was helpful even if people didn't respond or didn't comment.
Yeah, I guess.
No, I know. And knowing you, I knew it was going to be hard because there's a lot of stuff that I've picked up on that I thought was probably I felt like you were angrier than you realized, or that it hadn't come out yet or something. So I'm glad that happened. Also, knowing you and knowing something is probably true, but then hearing you say it, that's hard. That can be hard for me. I want to really connect with people, but it can be hard because I really empathize with what people are going through. And then I can't talk about it. So that sucks. It's I think everybody should just assume, even nonverbal autistic people, they're extremely empathetic, even if they're not showing it. The reason why it might not be showing is because the receiving of the empathetic feelings is just so off the charts that like it's all they can do to process that. Like, having the emotions on the outside too. Come on,
like that's a bit much. Yeah. But so like I said, like the episode a couple weeks ago, like I was kind of hoping that would be like, even like apart from being like an episode of this show, like that's something that I just really wanted to just have on record, and just like my story. Like that's something I hope like someday like my kids watch, you know, like that
no,
kind of thing. Like I was so fucking proud of that too.
I'm glad you did it.
So yeah.
I'll bet. Yeah. Do you think your mom and dad watched it or would?
Oh, I doubt they did. I don't know if they would, but
what if you told them, like, look, if you're confused about me, this might really help. And you're like, so, mom and dad, know me more. Here's a link. And
yeah, I mean, ideally, sure, but I mean, without going too much into this, like smaller scale, sure, but similar attempts in the past didn't go anywhere. I'll just say that.
Oh, that sucks. No, it's, come on, everybody. People are more important than ideas. Let's figure this out.
Yeah, because like I said, like my goal with that wasn't necessarily to change anyone else's mind. It was really more just to explain where my mind is and why.
Right.
That's really the goal. So
I know, and I kind of get it too. Like if you're like, no, God is the most important thing, and if something even my son says might make me question God, then that's a dangerous thing. And
yeah,
like God is an idea. Even if God were real, our concept of God is an idea. If we try to protect that idea or any idea, as soon as you start to protect an idea, that will eventually, if conditions allow, turn into like hurting people for the sake of the idea. And it's like, who cares if the idea survives if there's nobody around to enjoy it? Like,
for real. And I'm sorry I missed this comment from at least a few minutes ago, but glad, Susan, you're still here. Yeah. But seriously, life just needs to level itself out.
It does. Let's aim for equilibrium. What's that probably going to be? Let's aim for that and just skip the war and the death and like the hatred. And it's like, oh, my religion's right and yours is wrong. Let's just find out which one is right, if any. Like, can we get to the bottom of this? Like,
and again, you can only get there if you're willing to, you know, going back to a question that I don't know if we actually ask, but it's at least like on the back of our minds. It's like, if you're wrong, would you want to know?
I think humanity's waking up. I don't know what that means. It just means I just feel like people are kind of like, well, that thing's stupid. The whole like dying for an idea thing. I used to think that was good, and now I'm like, it's just an idea. It could be wrong. Like,
yeah, like I could deny an idea and like, oh, okay, it sucks for the idea, but guess what? I'm still alive.
And like how many years I wasn't really all that concerned with what was the better idea. I just thought I had a good one. Like, like people were wired for that. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I think more and more people are like, okay, sure, fine. But is there something better?
Right. So let's try to figure that out. But look, all I know is I certainly don't have to pee any less than I did. So
I certainly
this was good.
Yeah.
But speaking of going solo, you may actually be solo next week because I'll be out of town. So
yeah, that'll be interesting. I might watch some stuff and comment on it. I might just talk. We'll see.
Yeah, I'll try to tune in if I can from wherever I'm at the time. But yeah,
it might just be YouTube YouTube time with Matt. Like, where I'm just like, all right, what's in my queue? All right.
Yeah, I'd be down for that. But all right, so yeah, so that'll be next week. Like I said, I will definitely not be here. Matt probably doing his own thing. But yeah, we'll see. And then after that, like we said, again, be sure to tune in on election night. Before then, like we said, we got some other people we've been thinking of having on as guests, probably work them in hopefully sometime soon. But yeah, until then,
election night will probably be, it is what it is. Let's just have fun. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Where's the fun in that?
Exactly.
Election night. Where's the fun in that?
I like that. All right. Well, Matt, any other closing thoughts?
Yeah. May your things and stuff be forever with your peoples.
Forever and ever, or however long we're here. Amen. All right. Well, I won't see you next week, but Matt will.
We'll be post Tommy, bereft of Tommy. Sans Tommy.
Well, yeah, hopefully you can all survive. Matt will take good care of y'all. So
we'll see.
We will. All right. Well, enjoy the dystopia, everybody, I guess, and we'll see what we can do to make it less dystopia, more topia. Is that a thing?
I don't know. Let's find the topia.
Are there utopia? Is you the opposite of dis? I don't know. I need to work on my prefixes. Anyway, all right. Good night, folks.
Night.